just kidding now. Thank you. Yes. Boomer shit. I was cleaning my microphone. I should have never got the microphone with the ability to touch it and mute it. It was a big mistake. They got me. All right. So anyways, we had a late night. I was trying to say this. Another full day of streaming for me. Got the call-in show. Then we got the extravaganza. Then we got 8 o'clock tonight. We'll be interviewing BX Bullet and then doing the normal nighttime show. So, my goodness, what a lineup. What can I say? It'll be a good day. I slept pretty well. I'm joined by my dog, Dorothy, today, who's on a blanket beneath me. Dorothy, you want to come say hi? Come on. I have to watch her, though, while I'm streaming. Come on up. Because she still has her wound. I gotta make sure you're not chewing on it. You want to say hi to everyone? All right. Shock! That'll fix her. How dare you move during my stream? Good girl. You're a good girl. She likes sitting up here, though. Plus, my wife's not here today because she volunteers at my son's school, and they normally they don't have a cafeteria. So once in a blue moon, they'll have hot lunch day where parents go in and volunteer. So I believe they're doing spaghetti and meatballs today. So my son's very excited because he gets to see mom at lunchtime. So I think they eat lunch around 11:30. So by the time she finishes serving lunch to everyone and then gets back here, she'll probably be back around 1:30. So Dorothy gets to join me for the stream today. She's a good girl. So I don't anticipate anything crazy. There's always a chance she gets into wires and stuff. Unlike other big streamers, I promise she doesn't have a shock collar on, nor would I harm her. Even if she gets into all my wires and ruins the stream, oh well, life goes on. And I'm not even a ridiculous socialist millionaire. Isn't that amazing how it works? So, we got a good show for you today, though. Of course, the call-in show. It's as much your show as mine. We can talk about whatever you like. I have some topics I'd like to broach in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the show. And then, obviously, people could take it where they want. I got a bit of a cold. Nothing too serious, but, yeah, screw it, son. I agree. I'd love to debate him. All right, so I thought too big. I got 19.2. Is that what I'm at? No shit. Let me check this. I haven't checked. We will have a 20,000 sub party once I get to 20,000. I'm going to wait a week or so to make sure that my subs don't go back down for some reason. That would be ridiculous if that happened. It'd be pretty embarrassing. So, hey. Yeah, you're not supposed to touch. I know. Yeah, watch that, buddy. She goes to get her stitches out here next week. I know, buddy. Let me check. How do I check how many subs I have? View my channel. 19.2. I'll be damned. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Now listen. I got to read the super chats now because I just saw the greatest compliment. We got Naughty Germ. Thank you so much, my friend. Always a pleasure. Always gives $5 every stream. Really appreciate it. Cellulite Podcast, $5. So salutations, Rob. Are you available Saturday, 4 p.m. Central Time for an open panel debate? Probably not, if I'm honest. The reason is I try to really take off on the weekends because that's my time to spend with my family. Now, I still stream after my son goes to bed, but that's at like 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So, normally we're trying to do fun stuff through the day Saturday. So I think we're going to go to a pumpkin patch actually this Saturday. But thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. And then John Locke, maybe the greatest compliment I've ever been given. I've been called Jim Belushi or John Belushi. I've been called Chris Farley. People said I remind them of a very, very Timu poor man's Rush Limbaugh. But my goodness, for $2 being called the Arn Anderson of the Crucible. Oh, man. Who would if we were the Four Horsemen, I guess Andrew's Ric Flair. That goes without saying. But I'll take Arn Anderson. What's that make Jake? What version of the Four Horsemen we talking? I'll take that though. Damn. That is amazing. Thank you so much for that. Even $2 aside, I mean, thank you for the donation as well. But my goodness, Arn Anderson. I got a mean spine buster, right? Like, oh man, that's great. I can't wait to tell my wrestling nerd friends that someone said I was the online debate version of Arn Anderson. Jake's Mongo. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, Tully's more that's more my Four Horsemen, but yeah, Jake being Mongo. Good stuff, yeah. Sanford Basley, thanks so much. $5 says, "You're the man, Rob. I'm a recent subscriber. Always enjoyed watching you destroy these idiots." You're getting that 10K from Sarah. I don't think she'll be sending me 10K. But thank you. I appreciate that. Goodness gracious. That took me off guard, the Arn Anderson claim. I'm very pleased with that. I swear, as soon as I'm done with the stream, I'm texting my nerdy friends and I'm going to be like, someone said I remind them of Arn Anderson. And then I'm sure I'll get a bunch of shit. Arn Anderson, more like Hugh Morris or something like that. All right. Two things that I think are worth talking about today. I'm sure we'll cover some of this on the extravaganza as well. But first thing, real quick, bum leg. Thanks. By the way, in case you didn't know, you guys aren't going to believe this. No, we set this goal at $357. Reason being, after YouTube takes their cut, 357 basically puts me to the point where from making that a show, it was replacing, when I went full time, the job that I had before that. So I'm trying to break even with that 357 per show. It was actually per day, but shh, don't tell. So that's the idea. There you go. Jake Lex Luger and Mr. E is Tully. That sounds about right. Thank you. That's good. You're not going to believe this. This is insane. 2 days ago, just 2 days ago, you're not going to believe this. This guy who follows my show, his name's Austin Hall. You're not going to believe this. 2 days ago, this guy puts a message out there. And you're not going to believe what he says. He says 357 a day is highly unreasonable. You're unreasonable, sir. What pisses me off is every 2 days ago, this guy says this. And it's starting to get old, quite frankly. So, what we're going to do is, we're going to show this guy today that he's the unreasonable one. And if you need more motivation, I just want to throw this out here. Austin Hall, allegedly, this Austin Hall guy, and I'm just saying allegedly. I don't have proof. It's just allegedly. He doesn't want me to have a 20K sub party. Just saying. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. So, that's who that Austin Hall guy is. He's an Hassan fan. He likes shot callers. Allegedly. So, a couple super chats I think I missed. Bum leg, $5 says a real 20K sub party incoming. Just don't talk shit about Andrew till then. Remember, don't breathe into the mic. I'll try. Fuck, I was supposed to call Spiro today and he was going to help me set up filters. Now listen, I could do this. Watch this. Tell me if this sounds any better. Oh, shit. I forget how to do this. Now I'll do it some other day. Spiro, $5 says bzzz. Is that what I sound like? Thank you, Spiro. Forgot to call him this morning. And look at this, Chad. HK gives $50. Says 357 is unreasonable. Not one step back. Thank you. Thank you very much. Listen, I will be shit-talking Andrew today with Jake on the extravaganza. So I'm sure we'll come up with something. Last week it was that he was missing the show because he got the call and was at the Wailing Wall. Jake claimed he was in Qatar getting airplanes or something yesterday. I claimed he ran in fear of the No Kings protest. Who knows what we'll go up to or get up to today? And look at this. America's Almanac, thank you so much. $20 says we're happy to spend $357,000 a day if it means helping you spend time with your wife and son. L. Austin Hall, God bless you and your family while wishing you all the success in the world. Thank you so much. Incredibly generous. This is my brother in real life. He says, I just got in a fight with a family member who kept repeating, "You'll never be as smart as Rob." I think I could guess which family member it was. And I can't be mad at them for being right. You can't be upset with that, right? And Gavin Freenan, $5 says, Rob, the first second of your live stream yesterday opened with you breathing heavily. Yeah, I'm a fat, out of shape bastard. What can I say? I'm trying to get in shape. I'll get my mic set up properly. And then Spiro, $5 says, yeah, you were going to call me. I got up at 6:30 my time. I had some work to do, tired. I had to be a dad tired. I have to debate tired. Now I pay you. Works out. That sounds about right. That sums it up. All right. I got stories to get to. Obviously, we can talk about whatever people want here. I usually open the lines up at 12:30 and we do 2 hours of calls. Here's some ideas I had to talk about. The first is the idea of immigration into this country. And what does it mean? Now, it has to be that this country is more than just anyone who comes here is an American. It's an absurd thing to even suggest. Now, the problem is, and I promise I'll get to all the super chats, I will. The problem is, even I fell for this tripe to some degree. I have no problem in limited amounts of accepting immigrants that don't look like me and maybe don't even have the same religion as me, as long as they're culturally in line with us enough that they can assimilate to some degree. I don't think that means you have to be a white Christian. I'm not saying that. But the priority needs to be, one, that you accept our culture and try your best to assimilate. And second, that you are a net positive to the rest of us in the country. In other words, if you're the smartest scientist in the world, but you refuse to assimilate to our culture, we don't want you. Or if you can fit into our culture and you're, it doesn't matter if you look like me, if you sound like me, if you have the same religion as me, if you are a drain on this country, you refuse to work or you're incapable of working, we have to pay you more in tax dollars than you bring in, then our country has the right to say, I'm sorry. We, as a government that we are all forced to participate in through taxation, have a moral obligation to govern for the benefit of the people of this country, not for the benefit of people around the world. That doesn't mean that our government should harm people around the world for my benefit. That's not what I'm saying. But it shouldn't intentionally go out of its way to give resources to people around the world at our expense. Mike Ball, thank you, my friend. Much appreciated. Now, I supported Vivek Ramaswamy. He was my first choice for Republican candidate this time, primarily because the issue I focus on is government corruption of these institutions. And he was saying that he would disband the FBI. And I was like, yeah. And he wanted to eliminate 75% of the federal workforce. There's only one problem with that. That's not enough. But yes. But Vivek's comments that he made about H-1Bs illustrated a fundamental flaw in what he thinks. And I understand this because I don't know his religion. Is he Hindu? But he's of Indian heritage, I believe. So he's going to be like, well, America's just this big melting pot and it doesn't matter what your culture is. Come on in. What he views America as is one big corporation. So he doesn't want DEI necessarily. He doesn't want wokeism. He wants productivity. That's what he wants. Who could make the most widgets? Some dude from India? Fine, bring him in. Cultural assimilation, all of that shit, irrelevant to someone like Vivek, it seems. If the dude that's a Muslim and believes in Sharia law can help Microsoft be really productive and raise the GDP 1%, fine, bring him in. It has to be more than that. Now, I want to show you two little stories here real quick. This sort of illustrates the problem with the mass migration, illegal or legal, and the problem with that. Now, the first story that we see here is about, both these stories are going to be about New York City. 32% of New York public housing is occupied by people born outside the United States. 44% of rent stabilized units. Some of these are probably naturalized citizens, but still. We are subsidizing the foreign born to live in our financial capital and driving out our own citizens. 44% of rent-controlled units are people not born in the United States. 32% of all public housing. Now, I don't know if I have it. Let me see if I can find it. There was a story I was reading along with this that sort of talked about... Oh, I had to have saved this. Maybe not. Let's see if I can type it in. I always forget to say, I read something and I forget to save it. This isn't about New York City, but again, you see the problems with sort of mass immigration and particularly bringing people in from the third world. In the Netherlands, they've made the data public. Each Somali immigrant has been found to cost the public $1.2 million over their lifetime, while each North American and Japanese immigrant generated a contribution of $500,000 over their lifetime. That means in the Netherlands, every immigrant they bring in from Somalia, over the time of that immigrant being there, will cost the government of the Netherlands $1.2 million. Every immigrant they bring in from North America or Japan garners the Netherlands government $500,000. Now, this isn't a direct apples-to-apples comparison, but do you see the problem? When you're bringing in people from third world countries, on net, I'm not saying that there's no one capable of being productive that comes from these countries, but in addition to all of the cultural problems, you see that on net, they are a drain on the societies. And who would have thought otherwise? You think it's different in the UK? You think it's different in the United States? I was reading elsewhere, I don't have this data in front of me, that 1 in 10 Somali immigrants are employed in the UK. 1 in 10. That's not a 10% unemployment rate. That's a 10% employment rate. Now, there was this story that Mamdani, the guy who's going to win, the sort of socialist guy who's going to win the mayorship there in New York, he's buddies or palling around and taking pictures with and associates with one of the unindicted co-conspirators of the original bombing of the World Trade Center. And I saw someone say, if you told New Yorkers on that day, someday you will elect a mayor that's friends with the people that did this, they would have laughed in your face. Or maybe it was 9/11. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Mamdani's campaigning for mayor with the unindicted co-conspirator of the murderous 93 bombing of the World Trade Center, a trial run of the 9/11 slaughter of 2,753 New Yorkers. This is a shocking insult to their memory and thousands of survivors. And people are saying, how can that be? Of course, there's other footage of Mamdani earlier in his life saying it would be impossible for Muslims to assimilate into New York City, and etc., etc. How could it be? How could New York, all of a sudden, how could, of all people, New Yorkers, that day, 9/11, a moment that brought this country together. I'm 41. I remember it. I was a senior in high school. For all of my, even back then, inherent not really enjoying being in a city. I've never been to New York City. I go to Pittsburgh. That's enough for me. Even then, I'm like, this is too big. I don't like it. Too many people. But I try. But that day, it felt like we were all New Yorkers. How dare you? How dare you attack? To hell with you. All problems after that aside. On that day, in that moment, while the dust was still falling, while they were still counting up the bodies, I wasn't thinking, wait a minute, was this an inside job or anything like that? I was thinking, it's horrific. This is America. You don't attack us like that. In many ways, this is the financial and in some ways cultural center of our country. Fuck you. How can in that day, people that are with that ideology, allegedly, of the people that attacked us, how could New York, of all places, vote for someone who's palling around with people that share that ideology? How would those people, those New Yorkers, that day, or the days immediately preceding September 11, 2001, how could they, not 30 years later, vote for someone to run their city like that? The answer is they're not voting for him. That's the answer. 2025 New York City mayoral election poll. Among American-born New Yorkers, 40% go for Cuomo, 31% for Mamdani, 25% for Curtis Sliwa. Among foreign-born New Yorkers, 62% for Mamdani, 24% for Cuomo, 12% for Sliwa. There's your answer. It's because the people that are voting for Mamdani aren't New Yorkers. They're people that came here. They don't give a shit. What do they care? Demographics are destiny, baby. You remember how you're told that the Great Replacement theory is racism? Remember that? And then we had an open border and millions upon millions of illegals flood in, let alone the ones that we accepted legally? Remember how you were told, that's not happening, and then once it turned out it was happening, they were like, okay, it's happening, but we're not going to give them a pathway to citizenship? And then Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi both admitted that was the case. Don't believe me? This is Chuck Schumer leading into the 2024 election.
The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
But you were called a racist. That was a racist conspiracy theory for believing that. That's what it was. You were a racist, if you notice that. Nah, there's not a bunch of illegals flooding in. That's bullshit. Okay, there is, but no one's suggesting a pathway to citizenship. Okay, we're suggesting a pathway to citizenship, but don't worry, they'll assimilate. Okay, they're not assimilating, and they're just voting for their own people and different culture and customs, but fuck you! That's the argument. And that's where we find ourselves. Take a look at Dearborn, Michigan. One need only look at the United Kingdom to get a glimpse in our future. It's probably too late. Sorry to say that to any Brits that are watching right now. You're probably fucked. Canada, you're probably fucked. Australia, what's left? Poland, Hungary, United States. Now, I was going to get to a story about Bernie Sanders, but I think we'll leave it there. Read the rest of these super chats and then open the phone lines. We already read that. AJC 50 bucks says it's so unreasonable that my money always finds its way into your wallet. I find it reasonable. Maybe you find it unreasonable, but it's quite reasonable to me. Thank you as always, my friend. Zenkrios, thanks so much. 10 bucks says, when do the invites go out to the Panelverse to celebrate your 20K? I'm sure they'll RSVP. No comment. AJC, thank you so much for the 10 gifted subs. I really appreciate it. Always incredibly supportive. And I know the recipients of those subs really appreciate it as well. ProSales 20 bucks says, I asked a shitlib if we could import the black Christians from Nigeria. Her brain buffered for 30 seconds and she said no, LOL. Remember when Trump tried to bring in 50 South Africans? Because of what's happening to white farmers in South Africa and the left lost their fucking minds? What's that? They're white Christians? Get them out of here. The only immigrants they don't want to accept. Remember that? It was hilarious. It was a story like in the first 3 months of Trump's administration. Now, we're going to open the call-in lines. We have some rules on this show. I'm aware there's still people that want to talk about drama, and there's going to be people eventually that want to call in and troll me. That's okay. We don't mind. What I will ask, even to the trolls, is as follows. To anyone calling in, we will stay within terms of service. We will not use racial slurs. We will not use homophobic slurs. It is unacceptable to have any call of violence. It's unacceptable because it's against terms of service, first and foremost, but I also find it immoral and I find it unstrategic. So we will not be doing anything like that. Other rules are, if you call in early, you'll probably get to spend more time talking because the way it normally works is for the first hour, I get 1 or 2 calls. And then in the back hour, I get 9 people that want to call in. So we have to limit the time for those people at the back. So if you want to call, probably a good chance you could talk more if there's less callers, which means if you call early, there's probably less callers. If what you're saying, I don't have much to say, or for whatever reason, it's just uninteresting, we may move forward through the call. That's no commentary on you. It's just the way it is because I'm trying to get to everyone and try to keep the show entertaining. Sometimes people have very entertaining stuff to say, and I just have no idea what to say about it. So it happens. But that's it. That's basically the rules. Other than that, you can talk about whatever you like. And I'll do my best to engage in the conversation. So there's the link, StreamYard. Pinned at the top there. So whatever you want to talk about. You want to talk about the drama, that's fine. Hopefully we get through that this week and be done with it. You want to say that I'm a big piece of crap for it, that's fine. I don't care. We'll hear you out as long as you're not breaking TOS. There's this stuff. There's a lot of really funny Bernie Sanders clips. Maybe we'll talk about them on the extravaganza, but it's good stuff. And then, of course, we still have the No Kings rally. I was talking to a left-wing friend of mine the other day. I'm like, what's a story? He's centrist left, though. He's not crazy. I was like, what's a story that, I haven't been talking about, or people haven't been talking about that's sort of weird? He's like, what about Trump building this ballroom at the White House? And there's all these crazy pictures of the White House being demolished. He's like, it's not really a serious story, but I hadn't heard of it. And I looked it up, and sure enough, there's some sort of crazy pictures of the White House getting remodeled. But then I looked it in, Nixon installed a bowling alley. Obama installed a basketball court. So, a ballroom could be worse. Couple more super chats, then we're going to get right into it. Tyler, $2 says, which will qualifications be to vote at each level? No spaces. I like that because you had to get it in a $2 donation. Thrifty. I like it. I don't know. For me, I hesitate to put too much of a burden on voting because I think that it'll easily be misused to go after people, and they'll set up metrics like through academia so that only people that have certain academic qualifications will be able to vote, which means, is that who you want voting, these left-wingers? I think for me, a simple qualification to vote, which I think solves 80% of our problems, is that the bare minimum should be, unless you meet certain very stringent criteria, like you have some sort of illness that makes you physically incapable of going, or you're in military service, of things of that nature. The bare minimum should be you have to show up to vote in person with a legal ID on the day of the election. To me, that will weed out so many people that try the bare minimal. Yeah, whatever. A ballot came in the mail, fill it out, throw it in. I don't care. I think that would solve 80% of our problems, and it is by no means an unreasonable barrier to vote. So I would start there. But I'm open to conversations about, like, should you be a landowner? Should it be reserved for just men? Should it be reserved to, I don't agree with that, by the way, but I'm open to hearing it. Should it be reserved to just people with children? Should you be allowed to vote for your child? In other words, until your child's 18, they garner your family an additional vote. I don't know. I'm open to all of that. Abby, thank you so much as always, man. $20, she says, hope you're well. I am well. Thank you. Really appreciate it. All right. Away we go with the callers. Last thing I'll say, if you violate terms of service, even if it's an accident, you do realize I got to let you go. We got to protect the channel and all of that stuff. So, all righty. First caller, Black Jaden. For some reason, I see your cam back. Oh, you're frozen. Can you hear me?
Hey, Rob, how are you?
Good. For some reason, your image froze, but that's okay. I could hear you. That works fine.
I guess, I don't want to keep bringing up. I know a bunch of people have, but the drama stuff with obviously Rachel.
It's okay. I don't mind. Look, the more that it's talked about and got out of the way now, then hopefully next week I never have to.
I think that this is just the perfect example of just like another counter Connor, somebody who plays the conservative Republican, persona for the grift, but then when it comes down to it, they're just like everybody else, and they'll turn on their kind just as quickly as anybody else. Stuff like that just really irks me. But look at the cause and effect of it. Sarah's done this, and now her channel's down to 16.5K subscribers, and you're up to 19K. That's just the cause and effect of stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be clear. I had no intention whatsoever of anyone unsubscribing from Sarah's channel. In fact, if Andrew hadn't done a video, no one would have unsubscribed. Maybe a handful of people. My point was quite simply this. I can't speak to what Sarah's political motivations are as far as, like, is she really a right-winger? I don't know. I wanted to support Sarah because at least she was someone in this space that wasn't one of these lefties that I saw. And let me be clear about this. I'm not saying that I am wishing ill to any lefty that has a panel. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, man, if there's two pizza shops in my town and one's ran by a Christian conservative and the other's ran by a person who's heavily donating to the Democratic Party, I'm going to go to the Christian conservative's pizza shop. That's what Sarah was to me. It's like, I've been in this space long enough. Everybody that was doing these panels and setting up debates was a left-winger. And I didn't want to deal with that as much as possible. I was on Prime K's panel not long ago. I debated with Wick and them not long ago, so I still dabble. But Sarah was someone that I was legitimately cheering to do well. I'm not so sure that she's secretly a left-winger or secretly just doesn't care and it's not right. That I don't know. Nor was I intending a massive negative exodus or, this will benefit my channel. All I was doing was I saw someone calling me out that sent some shit to me privately that was pissing me off, that I didn't like the way the moderation was going and felt like I was treated substandard to the rest of the people on there. And then once I saw that she was engaged in being in this panel while these people were trolling me and was talking about, the awesome power of the panel verse, which is one of the cringiest things I've ever heard.
I think
I think he doesn't know the power of the panelverse.
Oh shit! Not the panelverse! Oh no! Not the fucking panelverse! Beware the panelverse! He doesn't know the foul of the panelverse! Who could know the great Sarah Tomato? The power she wields! The power of the panelverse! My editor, Black Elk's the shit, by the way. But yeah, so that was he's great. But that was it. And you know, Andrew had my back because first and foremost, because he's a friend, and that's what he did. And second, he don't want to deal with someone that he feels is stabbing people in his employ in the back like that, because to him that's the same as stabbing him in the back.
Well, you know, even Andrew, he didn't call for nobody to go unsubscribe from Sarah's channel. But the fact is when you get down to the real actual based Americans who aren't here and don't follow you guys for any other reason except that we really truly agree and like your ideas, we're not going to support people who turn their backs on our side, you know? I mean,
well, I think that, and that's it.
Like all of us, we're not streamers, you know, we're people who watch you guys. We're your fans and we're your supporters and we're people who share the same ideas as you. And if Sarah's going to turn her back on our ideology, why would any of us want anything to do with her channel?
And here's the thing, right? I suffer from a similar thing to Sarah, though not as much. But I'll be quite honest with this. For whatever reason, like behind the scenes, let's say I go hang out with Andrew this weekend and, you know, I beat him at poker real bad and he's like, you know what, Crucible, fuck robnoerr. He's a piece of shit. You know, fuck this guy. He stabbed me in the back. He bluffed, you know. I thought he didn't, I thought he, you know, had a pair of aces, but he bluffed and he took my money. Fuck him. He's a liar. We're done with this dude. Or something serious, but I'm just joking around. I'd probably lose a huge portion of my subs. Now, not as many as Sarah, and here's why. Because Sarah's business model, and there's nothing wrong with this, is bringing on other people to be the talent. Mine is I'm me. Now, it helps me that I have people, particularly Andrew, that has recommended me to other people. Certainly that helps. But at the end of the day, I'm still here. 80% of my content is me in front of a camera talking to an audience. It's not me sitting here quietly while other people talk. That's Sarah's model. So given that, if a big portion of your audience is coming from one guy, and that guy says, hey, I don't fucking like you, and says it publicly, that audience is probably, a lot of them are going to go, okay, then we're not going to go over there anymore. That's not a call to be like, hey, I want you to go on sub. And I'm telling you right now, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and I know there are people that contest this. I am 100% certain that not only will some of the people that watch me continue to watch Sarah, but some of the people that call into my show and some fellow streamers who I rate all the time and who I really like are going to continue to debate on there and to call into the open shows. And I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I know Andrew has no problem with that whatsoever. 100% completely fine. No problem. It's just my personal feelings are fuck it. I don't want to deal with her anymore. And that's Andrew's as well. And people will make their own decision. So I am humbled that people have decided to sub to me. In a better world, I would have made it to 20,000 subs and this would have never happened with Sarah and she would also be at 20,000 subs and yay, that's fantastic. But the way it fell out, I'm helpful. I'm very humbled that people have decided to sub to me. I hope they stick around because I'm not a drama streamer. I don't talk about it very often. In fact, other than this instance, the only other drama I have is like just arguing about Destiny and shit like that, or arguing about like some of these left-wing streamers that I've had back and forth. But that's sort of arguing about debates we've had, not really about personal life or, you know, shit like this. So I don't know. So I hope people stick around, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about it other than
I think most everybody that you added on subscriber wise will stick around because most of the people are from Andrew's channel who just either not discovered you or just have too many people that they already watch, but this gave them a reason to subscribe to you.
Yeah. And you know, you know, from the perspective of Sarah, I don't know what her problem was with me. You know, I think it was just I don't think it's some nefarious, like, I think she understood that Andrew was where her bread was buttered, and she tried to sort of be pleasant to Andrew. Andrew wasn't asking for special treatment. I'm not asking for special treatment over there. Just wanted a fair platform, and it was good that it was someone who at least somewhat ideologically agreed with the right wing. That's great. So everyone wants to support them. Abe Dinkus is in the chat. He feels the same way. I saw him say in the chat earlier. Yes, the space was dominated by openly left-wing people like Wick, who, and I'm not even saying this to shit on Wick. Wick worked for Progressive Victory PAC. Now, why would we want to go support that?
Yeah.
You know, that's being paid by a super PAC to help Democrats win and become more progressive. And every click and view we give to that show is helping that cause. So to our ability, we would rather help someone else out. And that's what it is. You're going somewhere as, yes, there's a mutuality to it, that when you go on a platform, it benefits you hypothetically and you benefit them. But you would rather that be with someone that's more closer logically aligned with you, or at least not aligned with your opponents. That would be best. But it's not asking for special treatment. I think that it just is. I don't think it's that deep. I think that it's Sarah understood that about Andrew. About me, she was just like, this guy's a nobody. I think that, I'm going to let Connor talk over him because Connor's more valuable to me. I'm going to let Dusty talk over him because Dusty's in my friend group and he's more valuable to me.
I think it's genuinely the fact that you basically told her, hey, you're moderating. I mean, without saying it, you basically said, hey, your moderating sucks. I'm not coming back on your show because you let people talk over me. And that obviously that probably offended her because her ego is gaslit up. But
yeah, I don't know. But hey, I don't wish her ill in the sense that like, right. She's saying, I understand she's going to say, I don't need Andrew. What do you expect her to say? I'd liken it to this. Penn State football, James Franklin just got fired. And he gave a speech where it was like, I'm going to win a national championship somewhere else. This is like a good thing. No, it's objectively not a good thing to get fired by a national program. And you're probably never going to win it. But what do you expect the guy to say? I'm devastated. My career's over. No, you're going to try to be optimistic. So I get that she's saying, well, now I feel free and I'm unburdened. But if that's the case, tip of the cap, then it worked out for everyone. So congratulations, Sarah. You're no longer burdened. Good luck to you.
The squash
and maybe,
tomato,
and look,
no more.
I don't think it'll happen. I don't think that Dusty's going to be the next Destiny, or that Radical Coder is going to be the next Andrew Wilson, or that, Sarah's going to be the next Joe Rogan. But hypothetically could happen. And if it does, tip of the cap. That's good for you. I still don't want any part of it. Eventually, is there a chance in the future that I could debate someone like Coder and Dusty again on the right platform? Maybe. But I told Brian last night over on Speakeasy's show. He was claiming that I ran from that debate for him. Go watch Speakeasy's show and my interaction with him last night. Judge for yourself. We had the exact same conversation. I think I did tremendously well. I think I was dominating the conversation. And I told Ryan, to his credit, last night wasn't interrupting. It was a very pleasant conversation that required no moderation. And I told him at the end of that, all right, now can you concede that you don't think I was running from you? He's like, no, I don't. I was like, just so you know, I'm not talking to you in the foreseeable future. That's it. That's his mistake. I don't need Radical Coder. I don't need Dusty. I don't need Sarah. I think they need someone like me more than I need them. Maybe I'm wrong. And they'll prove me wrong, and I don't care. That's fine. That's where I stand.
You provide good content. You provide good factual-based arguments for the right. Of course, somebody like Sarah needs you on her channel, because otherwise she's just over there with fucking leftist idiots and, honestly, Republicans who can't argue as well as you. But I guess that's really pretty much like all I had to say about the Sarah stuff. I do want to quickly talk about the protest just a little bit.
Sure.
Did you watch? I watched a lot of coverage from like Cam Higby to Nick Shirley and stuff like that, on the ground coverage.
Yeah.
Of the ICE protests and the King's protests, and I saw a lot of people attacking Cam Higby. Holding megaphones in his ear for hours, people pushing him, surrounding him. Obviously, just different forms of harassment. What do you think that their goal? Obviously, they're not going to get Trump out of office just by with these dumb protests that they're doing. They're not gaining any favor with the moderate voter with these things. So what do you think their angle is? Just to garner news attention and to control the public discourse?
Yeah, I think that that's a big. So I think there are people that are financing this, obviously, and the idea that they have is that they want an optical display that gives the impression that so much of this country is infuriated with what Trump did. And don't poo-poo that strategy, because, like, if I asked you in 2014, what do you think the average American stance was on immigration? Right? You'd probably be like, probably similar to today, less extreme than today, but probably a lot of them was like, yeah, we want a secure border. And yet, because of the way that sort of the public narrative was shaped, you never heard that. You never heard it at all. It didn't matter if that's what 60% of the people believed. You never heard that perspective. In fact, one of the things that was going on with Trump when he ran in 2016, basically, policy-wise, his biggest policy was immigration. Right? Secure the border. And after he won the primary, you had a bunch of these like sort of Republican strategists that went to him and were like, okay, it's time to drop all that. That's not a winning issue in a general election. Well, yeah, it is. We just never heard that because that's the power of controlling a narrative. It's the same with the government shutdown. Objectively, it's a clean CR. Some Democrats have voted for it. Some Democrats are admitting it's the Democrats that are holding this up. They're doing it. They're the ones that want to add shit. The Republicans just basically are going with the status quo. They didn't add one thing, despite being in control in the presidency, the House, and the Senate. They didn't add anything. And Democrats are the ones not voting for it. And yet, they're hopeful that they could make the message Republicans are shutting down. So controlling the narrative is incredibly important to these people. I think they failed. I think the No Kings protest did not have the sort of optical change that they were hoping that it would add. Now, what are the people on the street hoping to accomplish? The person yelling at Cam Higbee with a bullhorn? Pure rage. They feel they are morally justified. They think that people like us and Cam Higbee are evil. To them, it's no different than the March on Selma. We are the police officer with the German Shepherd and the fire hose, spraying the black person who just wanted to sit at the diner and eat. We are the SS soldiers rounding up Jewish people. And so what are they doing? They're the noble people that are fighting against it. That's it. It's really that simple. It's a dopamine rush. When they would talk to these people on the ground, like, what are you protesting? They don't know. Half of them have no clue. It's just that dopamine. It's the cultural, it's the virtue signaling, this is what culture is. I'm on the right side of history. I'm a moral person. Let me show you how moral I am. That's why they're screaming at Cam Higbee. They don't have a plan like the people. See, these people are just useful idiots for the real people that want to return to sort of establishmentarian control and sort of this globalist agenda. That these people in the street, they're just the useful idiots for that. Antifa's just the useful idiots for that. So that's my feeling on it, what they're trying to accomplish. But Jaden, thank you so much for the call, man. I do have a bunch of other callers, so I'll let you go. But it's always a pleasure, man. I'm very happy you called in.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much. A couple more super chats, and we'll get to the next call. Red Fox. The Red Fox? Thought he was a big fan. Thanks so much. $50. Unbelievable. Says, you're making an object lesson in respect and how to treat people, especially given you are the talent. Now the crew is expanding on that lesson for them, not one step back. Yeah, and I explained that, and I think Andrew explained that. The lesson to Ryan and Dusty was, you need me, or this show's going to suck. And I apologized to Trippy last night, and everyone heard me say when it came to Toasted, who's acted a fool in my Discord since then, but that's neither here nor there. And when it comes to Trippy and Nova, I felt bad. I thought I did what was right by me to show a lesson to these people like Dusty and Ryan. I didn't know their name was the Panelverse. I didn't know that. But fuck you guys. I'm tired of being treated like I don't need this. And there are people that interact in that panel scene and that watch my show. I'll give you an example. Old Joe. Old Joe called into my show. We had conversations leading up for 3 weeks. And Old Joe would call in every once in a while and be like, Rob, you need to stop doing those panels. They're sort of beneath you. And what he means is the same way when I say they're beneath me. He doesn't mean that I'm big time now. I got more subs. That's certainly part of it from their perspective. Not from mine, but from their perspective. If someone's bringing more eyeballs to you, you're like, I would like to keep interacting with that person because if I think I'm doing good, if I'm Dusty or if I'm Ryan And I'm like, oh, I normally have maybe 50 people watching me, and Rob normally has 200 people watching. If I do really good in this debate, maybe 10% of those people say, I'm going to check this dude out. If I act like a fool and the guy's like, you know what, I don't want to interact with you anymore, how's that help you? Now, it's different if you just win the debate and I get angry and I'm like, ooh, I don't want to interact. That's different. It's like, well, hey, you can't control that. But why purposely act like a fool? So the lesson I was trying to teach them is when I said, could you please stop interrupting after he spurred out? And he admitted that he did it. He says we both did it. I disagree to a large extent, but he admits he did it worse than me. I was teaching a lesson. When I said, hey, listen, I'm going to stay silent until you stop interrupting. He said, great. That means I get to talk more. Fine. Lesson learned. I'm going to be silent the rest of the night. That's all it was a lesson. The trolling that occurred afterwards, fine. Fuck it. Whatever. Dusty and his little gang of fucking, fake supervillains wants to get together and troll me, fine. More power to them. So much so that one of the trolls admitted, yeah, we did a very bad job. They failed at trolling. They had to have a cope session over trolling. But Sarah's different. For some things behind the scenes that I can't talk about, but also for the messages that she was sending me, the fact that the moderation was so iffy, the fact that I'd basically bit my lip and all I did was complain a little bit about what I saw as moderation, but said, hey, listen, I like Sarah, I wish her well, even though I was getting these messages behind the scenes. And then to see her go with that power of the panelverse line, okay. At that point, she said shit publicly, I said shit publicly, that's it. So, yeah. All right, next up, we got GG. What's happening, GG? How you doing this fine day?
Doing good, bro. Back to work. PTO's over, so back to the grind.
Oh, wait, real quick. I forgot a couple more super chats. I don't think you'll mind. $5. Tyler, $5 says, you didn't really answer. I said federal, state, and local votes. What should differentiate these voters? I'm not sure I understand the question. Is the question, should there be different criteria for being able to vote in each of those? No, I would say not. I would say that you should have to be a citizen, and then whatever our metric is, being 18 or something, that you should have to do. So I don't think that you should be 16 to vote locally, 18 to vote state, 21 to vote federally. You should have to own land to vote federally, but not to vote state. You should have to be Christian to vote locally, but not. No, I wouldn't differentiate like that. So if that's the question, I would say that it should basically be uniformed. Lower class, $10 says, don't stop until Rob's #1 streamer on YouTube, boys. Thank you. I appreciate that. And FB for $5 says, well, could it be that the leftist streamer like Hassan and Destiny are trying to stir the pot because they don't want to face the legal consequences? You mean like with people firing up some of these like No Kings protesters, I'm assuming? Yeah, I mean, the truth is they call for violence and shit that they would be unwilling to commit themselves because they're cowards. And they don't give a shit if their audience faces the consequence. And like Destiny admitted, he wants Republicans to fear for their lives to be in public. So yeah. All right, rest of the super chats I'll get to, I promise. All right, I'm so sorry, GG. I forgot I was reading those.
Yeah, I was just going to say, first of all, with our sequential calls combined, we are the call verse. Like that.
The call verse.
Yeah,
oh, shit. Please never tell anyone that they have underestimated the power of the call verse, or I may die of cringe. Like,
on your immigration stuff, the FHA stuff that we talked about before might tie in nicely to that, of like the 1% of 2024 sales. That was the main thing I talked about. Just wanted to tack that on.
Real quick, Zen Krios, who's calling in, he says in the private chat, do you see what he wrote? Instead of colon verse, he's like, colon verse? The colon verse. It's funny.
I wanted to ask, did you see the James O'Keefe thing that he just dropped yesterday?
Yeah. And so that's crazy. I thought maybe I'd talk about that tonight after BX Bullet leaves. The gist of it, you tell me if I got this wrong, but the gist of it is this. It's sort of similar to the story I was telling about.
Yep, that's what I called.
Yeah. So I had told this story about, I'll make this as quick as possible. We got a grant in the little town I lived in for people under a certain income threshold, which ended up being 95% of the town, that we were switching from septic tanks to public sewage, and you had to tap into the public sewage. Well, all the digging and all that stuff was going to be mighty expensive. So there was a grant that was given, I think this was by the state government, if I'm not mistaken. If you were under a certain income threshold level, that the state would take care of it. In order for the state to hire someone to do this, they had to have a bidding opportunity for someone to do this state work. This company wins, they're about ready to dig. And it was rescinded because in the bidding process, they did not have a company that was owned by a minority-owned company involved in the bidding process. Now, James O'Keefe just does this expose where they basically admit that it's like billions and billions of dollars that goes through this scheme. And so the way to work is something like this. Me and Gigi, I assume you're white, Gigi. I don't know. We'll just go with it even if you're not, right? Me and Gigi are white men and we own a company, right? And let's say we do like, I don't know, we set up websites or some shit and there's a government contract for that. So here's what we would do. We're not eligible for that contract or we're not going to be preferred. So we go to, let's say Byron happens to be Native American, who's next on the call, right? So we go to Byron and we say, listen, man, we'll give you 51% control of our company. You basically don't do shit all, right? So, and then you win this contract because you're Native American. So now Native American owned country. Great. You get this government money in bid. Then what we do is me and Gigi sell our portion of the company and create a new company that Byron, who's Native American, subcontracts and pays with the money he just got paid for the government to do the actual work. So Gigi and me, who are the two white guys that were going to do the work in the first place, but weren't eligible to do it because of this, bullshit, DEI, it has to be a person of color. We just add a third person who gets to drive up the cost of all this shit because, he's Native American, his company gets to do it, who does absolutely nothing, rakes in the money. We then win that bidding process, which the government ends up paying way more, because if you don't have these artificial barriers, what would happen would be me and Gigi would quote a price to the government, right? But then maybe Fallen Heathen and Level 4 Lobster, they're like, no, we'll undercut that. And there's a bidding war. And the lowest price that could do the competent work ends up winning for that government contract, as it should be, because they're spending our dollars, right? But now that doesn't get to happen because Fallen Heathen and Level 4 Lobster and all of their companies, they're owned by white men. So there's no competition. Even though at the end of the day, it's still two white men that did the work. That's what happens. And it is insane, the amount of dollars that are being sunk into this scam. And once you realize this, you see that there's an entire economy propped up just based on this bullshit DEI stuff. That's it. It's really surreal. Do you think that I got the broad strokes there right on what he was saying?
Yeah, that was pretty close. Like in the Native American, the other thing is whenever this company, the ATI, the one that O'Keefe is talking about, is whenever they got big enough, they got enough revenue, they're not qualified for the Small Business Administration loans anymore. So they just create another company to just change the name, same shit, and just run it back.
And it's insane. And we had people saying in the chat when I told this story about the bidding process, Russ was like, yeah, I own a construction company, or my friend owns a construction company. He put his wife on as the owner. Now all of a sudden they're eligible for government contracts. I mean, it's really insane. It's insane. And like anyone with half a brain could be like, wait, what? It's like this. Like people intuitively get this on other things, right? It's like, so let me get this straight. If I'm a woman, I get a bunch of more benefits, right? Yep, there's scholarships for me. Yep. And I could just claim to be a woman. Yep. Okay, then I'm a woman. Okay, here you go. And then you're shocked. It's like, wow, people are abusing the system. No shit. What did you think was going to happen? It's the same thing, except you don't have to claim to be a woman. You just say, put a woman's name on the, ownership of the company. Bam, there you go. And it's we're gonna cover O'Keefe's video tonight, I think. But I was shocked. I understood that this happened, but I was shocked by the scale of it, and I was also shocked by how shitty James O'Keefe's disguise was, and it somehow still worked. I mean, I don't know how the dude gets away with it.
Lady just gave away everything.
Yeah.
She's the director of contracts, and she's just like, yeah, here's how much money we do and give away. Like they didn't say. I'd have to rewatch it, but I'm pretty sure she didn't give away how much cut they take. But obviously she would be privy to that information. So like the tribe and that company are just pure skim. How much is it? 10, 20%? Who knows? Of just pure, just into the upper. There you go. I
mean, look at that. That's the worst disguise I've ever seen, and it works. I mean, it's surreal. I mean, God bless James O'Keefe too. I don't give a shit. Well, maybe he was a bully when he was over there at Project Veritas. I don't give a shit about any of that. James O'Keefe's done more, and basically, the legacy media has gotten away with just being like, "No, you can't trust him," and it works. All of this shit. You remember when O'Keefe was running around right after he lost Veritas, and he did this independent investigation into ActBlue, where he was like looking at all these ActBlue donations, and it would be like, Here's Abigail Smith, who lives at 212 Maple Street in this little town. And she sent $250,000 in the form of 500 individual donations to Act Blue. So he'd go to the door and he'd knock on the door. And here comes this little blue-haired lady, 70-year-old grandma. Oh, hello. Who are you, Sonny? And he's like, yeah, we're doing an investigation. Have you ever donated to Act Blue? I believe I've sent $10 or $20. Okay, did you give $500 or 500 donations to the tune of $250,000? I'm on a fixed income. How could I ever do that? And it just went into the ether. Yeah. House after house after house he went to that showed this. And nothing came of it. Now, there are rumors that, like, Trump's team's looking into Act Blue, but it was absolutely insane. You're looking at this and you're like, I can't think of a more compelling case. What incentive, unless James O'Keefe's just flat out making up these old people, these are actors that he's paid. I mean, this is proof positive that something, even if it's just an error. Oh, we screwed up. Actually, it wasn't that house. It was this house. Fine, but you at least have to respond, right? No, it was just crickets. Oh, well, whatever. Meanwhile, they'll go after Trump. Remember, what was it? 47 felonies because his lawyer, paid Stormy Daniels, and that was technically his lawyer paying out of pocket, which was a campaign finance faux pas and blah, blah, blah. But we could be looking at millions upon billions of dollars being funneled through small individual donations on Act Blue that are fraudulent. And no one gives a shit. So, I mean, it's absolutely surreal, the shit that they get away with. And O'Keefe, man, someone says O'Keefe's a lesbian now. Maybe. I'm not sure what his pronouns are. But, yeah, I mean, it is a fascinating watch. And hopefully we'll talk about it tonight. So I'll put the link up, though, if people want to watch it before tonight. It's only 21 minutes. But, man.
Yeah, the clip in the live stream, it's probably only like an 8-minute clip or something. But, yeah, I forgot. But, yeah, it's not that long.
So, now I'm glad you called in about it, though, because we were talking about sort of the FHA scams and whatever previously. But, O'Keefe Media Group, this is how he explains it. $100 billion federal contracting scam exposed. 8A firm admits to violating federal law using minority-owned status as a front to obtain $100 million no-bid government contracts while outsourcing 80% of the work. ATI Government Solutions contract manager Melanie Cromwell admits to exploiting the AASBA program through pass-through scheme and breaking federal law. I tell you, pass-throughs are a great thing, she says. We only do 20% of the work. The rest goes to subcontractors. And remember, there's no competition. I mean, they just admit it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating is like, it really does go, I saw this clip, but I was talking to Andrew about this one day. We were bullshitting on the phone. And I was like, it's so amazing. Like, because when people are saying like borderline shady shit from a right wing's perspective, like on social media, it's always like some avatar of like a generic houseplant or something. And it's like some name, When it's the lefties, like, yay, Charlie Kirk's dead. And my name's Lisa Smith. And here's my social security number. And here's my place of employment. And here's my address. Like, because they're so used to culture and society just being like, you get away with everything with impunity. There are never consequences for you. And so the sort of insane shit that they believe, like they're talking about Republican text messages, right? We don't need to dig up text messages from these fuckers. They say it in the open.
Yeah.
And
it's just signs, like, we'll kill you.
Right. And it's just like, well, yeah. What are the consequences? Of course we do. Of course it's okay. And so that's how you'd be like, wow, even if you're like, okay, even if you're corrupt like that, why the fuck are you just admitting it to some stranger? Because they probably talk like this all the time. And there's never been any law enforcement agency that was like, I don't know, looking into it. Like, it's just like, ho-hum. Yeah, fucking I go out to dinner with some random. We're watching the ball game. We're B-dubs, drinking a couple of cold ones. And I'm like, by the way, I commit $100 million fraud. Oh, nice one, dude. Anyways, wings on you, right? Like, it's fucking unbelievable. But these people, they don't have to hide it. It's out in the fucking open. And no one's ever done anything about it. You got one guy, James O'Keefe, that puts an old lady wig on and some fake glasses, and he's able to get this shit out of people. You mean to tell me that some government investigative body couldn't do this work? They were incapable of looking and saying, well, okay, when we're giving out, I don't know, $100 million contract to some minority-owned organization, can we audit and see, like, who's doing the work and what they're charging us? Are we capable of doing that? No, of course not. No one's concerned. And why would they be? Because they all make money off the same fucking schemes. The whole game is it's all big shell game and we're all getting rich. Everybody, you wonder why you can't get a fair trial in DC? The whole fucking town is made up of money that's just siphoned off from the rest of us going into this corrupt bullshit. So who's going to blow the whistle on the gravy train? You ain't going to say shit. You think Republicans that are playing the same scheme in many ways, you think they're going to say shit? Of course not. That's why it's important to stop some potential outsider like Donald Trump coming in. That's why it's important from the pharmaceutical angle to stop a potential outsider like RFK. That's why it's important from like a financial way of stopping a potential outsider like Elon Musk running Doge. That's why they freak out about that shit. Because it's like, oh, fuck. We just always assumed we were all big. Hey, man, we're all getting rich. Who the fuck's going to say shit? Oh, here comes someone that's not involved in that game. Shut that motherfucker up. That's what happens, you know?
Yeah, and I think on what was it, Biden's EPA, like whenever they knew they were going to lose the election, I forget how much money Lee Zeldin said they like dumped off the ship, but it was like 10 years worth of EPA funding. They did it in like 30 days. They just started printing cash. He stopped a good amount, but I forgot how much.
Even those, what was that? Was it the FHA loan we were talking about last time?
Yep.
If you look at the chart, it like averages at like 4% of FHA, 3.54% of FHA loans for some time was going to people that weren't born in the United States, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, right before Trump turned the valve off, remember it spiked to like over 6%.
Yep.
It's like
that's how you know it's like immigrants, because it started in 2019 and that's when 2020, that's when they started cranking the border. So you're like, all right, the correlation, it's just a correlation, but it's probably that.
And it's like the month before, it's like, oh shit, here it comes. Everybody into the fucking lifeboats. Let's do everything possible. We're raiding the coffers one last time before we have to get the fuck out of here. That's what it was. And it's surreal when you see it. You're like, how could they fucking do this? And they get away. And you want to know the worst part? They're going to get away with it. They're going to. This group that this woman will get fired that talked to James O'Keefe and the beat will go on. That's what'll happen.
Yeah. I put the link in the chat, and of course you want to bring it up. That's the graph.
Oh, excellent.
Okay,
yes, I will bring it up. So this is what we're talking about with the FHA loans. I'll make this larger so you can see. So this is H-1B holders, immigrants without permanent residence, getting these basically government subsidized loans that are designed for low-income people to purchase homes. Now, why would you need to purchase a home if you're not going to have permanent residency, right? Now, you can see right when Biden comes in, see how it upticks? And it's gradually going up. But then look right here, right? In May 2025, you see how high it gets? Because they knew, Trump had been talking about ending this shit, so it was like, holy shit! All these all these loan places were like, holy shit! Give as many loans as you can to immigrants right now.
That's almost like a 40% increase in that month alone. That's so.
It's unbelievable, and that's the sort of shit that happens. So, well, Gigi, it's a pleasure. I got other people to get to here, but man, it's always a pleasure, and hopefully we'll talk soon. But I'm glad you picked up that story. That is exactly what I was going to talk about. I thought we're already going to be talking about some morose shit with BX Bullet tonight about the 764 cults. I was like, we might as well jump right in from satanic cults to fucking diversity bullshit, spending our money. Why not? So,
all right. Yeah, all right. I dropped you a DM on Discord if you ever want to answer. I don't know if you'll ever need it or not, but just
okay. Yeah, I'll check it out, man.
Okay. All right. See you, Rob. Take it easy.
Take it easy, Gigi. All right. Did I get any super chats? If not, why? Bad Fricker, $10. That sounds like Sarah underestimated the power of the Crucible verse. I don't know what to say. I suppose if you line the Crucible up against her panel verse, you see which side won. So, all right. Remember to keep getting those super chats in. The more, the merrier. Now, we're going to go to 2:30, so we still got a lot of time. Link to call in is above. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 callers right now in queue, so we could probably get some more before the 2:30 time comes. We'll also appreciate more of those super chats. Thank you to everyone watching on Kick, Rumble, X, and Twitch, in addition to all of you great, fine people over there on YouTube. We appreciate you all. Don't forget to give a like on whatever platform you're looking at. And we'll move on to the next call. Our good friend, Byron of Sidious. How you doing today, Byron?
Doing all right, Rob. How you do, sir?
Oh, I can't complain. What is this, Tuesday? It's a fine Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. my Sunday technically because my weekends from work are Monday,
I
Tuesday.
That's how I
Um,
was when my schedule was basically working for a long time. It was working Wednesday to Friday. So then
yeah.
for me, it was like, like Tuesday was my Sunday, and Monday was my
You have
Saturday.
those weird days off, that kind of off kilter weekend, as it were.
Right.
A brief aside to forward things. I don't know if she's watching again, but I've heard you mention her a couple times as super chatting the last few days to Toasty with the Mosty. Hello. Good to see you, dear. If she's here. I've been on her shows and her streams a number of times.
Oh, I didn't know it was a woman. Toasty's probably mad at me, so I would
No,
guess she's not what.
Toasty's great people. She's great. Unfortunately, she's kind of being quiet on YouTube because she's sitting on some issues with the platform. But you know me, I tend to come in here and when I call and talk, it's more about culture than anything, than
Sure.
politics. Because I'm a little bit more of a numpty and not quite as well read in as you and Andrew and all you folks at Crucible. But that does pose a question or bring up a question I'd like to pose. Are you guys looking to do more in the realm of cultural matters or conversation as opposed to just political nature?
Yes. So two ways to answer this, right? Obviously, I think religion is part of culture, and I think that you can see certainly with the Crucible that they're pushing sort of that. I think that doing things like DebateCon are a push for culture. I watched this very interesting Matt Walsh video today. It's interesting you bring up culture. It's a 20-minute watch, and I think it was from yesterday, and it's amazing. And he talks about how the high point for U.S. culture was probably 2009. Now, he's focusing a lot on the entertainment industry. And basically,
that's my understanding too.
yes. So basically, he's like, let me go through the movies that came out in the 3-year period of 2006, 2008, or 2006 to 2009, and it's insane.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, and he's like every good TV show, like The Wire's on, Breaking Bad's on, The Shield's on, movies you had like filmed side by side, No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood. You had all of this stuff, right? And like he just goes through it,
Yeah.
and he estimates.
Bangers,
Yes. He estimates, he's like, yes, part of the problem was the election of Obama, right? Because we had to stop having fun because, whatever. But he says the bigger problem is the iPhone. And he's like, the bigger problem is we all used to have a shared culture even if we didn't agree with it. So, for example, when you're growing up, I'm 41. So when I was in the, when I'm 12 years old, like there's a limited amount of channels that we're watching. And you're going to the
I'm
movie
only a
theater.
couple of years older than you, so
Right.
we share kind of a similar zeitgeist.
Yeah.
There.
So now it's like you sort of had it. So even if you didn't like Madonna, you knew who Madonna was. Or if you didn't like Celine Dion, you knew it. Or if you never saw Titanic, you knew about Titanic. You knew the scene with the chick with her arms, right?
Yeah.
You knew all that, the sketching her naked, the Celine Dion song. You knew
You
all
still
that
have
shit.
memes today from that shit.
Right. So it's like even if you didn't know, you knew if you didn't like it, you still knew who Eminem was, right? Now it's like, because we all, instead of having a shared sort of media culture, we all have our own shit, right? There's a million different, you could tailor it to you. And he's like, and you used to bitch about gatekeepers. Well, Hollywood's a gatekeeper, and the music studios and the radio stations. It used to be in a generation before mine, like before Napster, if you wanted to hear a song, you either bought the CD or you called into your radio station to play a song. And Matt Walsh was talking about that. And he's like, so there was this sort of like, everybody knew who the local DJ was. Even if you didn't like him, you all knew. There was a shared understanding of like the things that are culturally relevant, we all sort of understand.
Right.
But now it's all
a priori understanding of here is the larger collective options, and we all kind of pick and choose our personal preferences and tastes within those options. And yes, I'm using
correct.
terminology.
But even the ones you're not picking and choosing, you're basically aware of. So you might be like, I like country music, but I know who Britney Spears is, right? I know, right? Now it's like, I watched the Happy Gilmore 2 movie, and I remember I looked at my wife and was like, I don't understand who his caddy is. Like, he's just a waiter in the movie, and then all of a sudden, for no reason, it's like, oh, he's going to be my caddy. I'm like, it seems like sort of forced. And my wife's like, oh, that he's a famous singer, Bad Bunny. And I'm like, who the fuck's that? Oh, he's won Grammys and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. Never heard of the dude. Right. Now the dude's headlining the halftime show at the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl announcement. I'd heard the name before, briefly in passing, from 20-somethings who I work with at the casino. And it's like, who the hell are you talking about?
Right. So I know, I know Taylor Swift. I know Lady Gaga. But I couldn't tell you, like, and as far as like TV shows and shit, I don't know what's on network TV anymore. I have no clue. When I watch football once in a while, I think it's hilarious because it seems to me that like network TV's this now. Like they all have one show that they just redo 50 times. So it's like tonight after the game, NCIS, followed by NCIS Las Vegas. And then NCIS like the Bahamas, and I'm like, what? They just run one show, and it's like, fuck it, we'll just have it filmed in a different area.
Their own version. Yeah.
But anyways, he talks about gatekeepers, and so we used to have these gatekeepers, and there's problems with gatekeepers, but also gatekeepers are inevitable and necessary. And the problem is we haven't lost gatekeepers. It's just now the gatekeeper is the algorithm. That's the gatekeeper.
A part of what happened too, and you see this brought up a lot in folks who discuss Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer 40K, video games. What happened was the gatekeepers of, I'd say, your and my generational ilk or cohort, as it were, sort of late end stage Gen X, millennial, that weird Xenial crossover cohort, were willing to hear people out who were ideologically not directly opposed to them, but kind of sideline, or there was some weird stuff, but we were willing to hear them out and let them into the hobby because we wanted more people involved in our pastimes and in our shared culture. But those people brought in the nonsense ideas and to use the general term, wokery, and they infected those hobbies and pastimes and moved their way up in organizations that were well known as the primary flag bearers of or standard bearers of those hobbies and pastimes, like Wizards of the Coast or TSR and Games Workshop for 40K, Ubisoft, EA, what have you, until they were in positions of dominion and control of what got out into the zeitgeist.
Well, that's true. And there's a separate conversation to what I'm talking about that, of intentionally going into cultural avenues and taking over that culture, which is sort of what you're talking about.
I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine. The gatekeeper thing, though, it's like now the algorithm's the gatekeeper, right? And so it's like it's all tailored to all of us as an individual, but it's still being given to us through this filter of we don't even know who the fuck the algorithm's not a person. No one knows shit about it. It's just like, hey, I'm interested in rap music. Here. Now, is the guy you're a fan of now the greatest rap star or something? No, he's the one you happen to hear because that's what the YouTube algorithm or that's what the Google algorithm put in front of you. How would you know? If you never get to see the person. So there's still a gatekeeper. And Matt Walsh's point is it's about to get 1,000 times worse. Because at least the content creators now, although we've gone from a select group of content creators that we all were taking parts of it, but we were aware of it all, to now they're everywhere because of social media. At least they're human. And it's about to get much worse because they're not going to be human. And he says, go ahead. It's all right.
Well, I was going to say, hello, still a person.
Right, yeah. And so he's like, what's going to happen is that not only will it not be people, you will create the best, by the end of our lives, your favorite movie will be a movie that no one else has ever seen. It will have been created specifically for you based on prompts that you input. But you're not even inputting those prompts on your own. You're being the very AI that you're inputting those prompts into will be convincing you what types of prompts to put in. Right. And so the problem with that is there will be no shared culture, right? Right now I could look at you and be like, remember that scene in fucking Taxi Driver? Remember that? Yeah, I remember that. Remember that song? Well, what happens when it's like, what's my favorite song? Oh, I like the reggae version of the Whip song. That's my favorite song. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right, there's no commonality.
That's right. Now, what do we do? Matt Walsh says, and I think I'm 80% in agreement with him here, right? He's pessimistic, but he says the optimism is the only thing we can choose is to balkanize as our own groups and have our own insular culture where we're meeting people in real life. Now, this is a long way around to your question. Are we doing things culturally? Yes, I think DebateCon's a culture. I think the fact that we're trying to set up events where people of like-minded interest in the Crucible are meeting in person and supporting people in person, I think that's cultural. I think the push for sort of getting active in religious communities, I think that that's cultural. There are
Do
other
you?
things that are being worked on that I'm not at liberty to talk about that
Okay.
aren't
Okay.
political or religious, but that there are things being worked at behind the scenes that
Okay.
are also cultural that we plan on getting involved in to various levels. And so
Yes,
even the
yes, yes.
extravaganza
I wouldn't. I
even the
wouldn't want to dig
extravaganza to a
in.
large extent. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk over you. If you listen back to
Sorry.
this, your audio is it sounds like you're like completely underwater for some
Probably
reason.
because the Bluetooth earpiece is a
Yeah, yeah.
piece of shit. I'm sorry for that. I also
No,
have a
no, no,
tendency
no.
to mutter, mumble, and I don't want to dig into or try to compel you or pry bar any information that you're not willing or able at this time
It will
contractually.
get shit will come out and it'll see. But yeah, it's an astute point that yes, it's not just about pushing a cultural narrative or a political narrative. It's also about pushing a cultural narrative. So the answer is yes. I understand the importance of that. I think that Andrew does. I think that most of the people at the Crucible do. And for our part here, I think that the fact that we have a community, although we haven't had a meetup or something, that's something that's on my agenda, just for the NORPAC members to have a meetup sometime and do shit. But yes, it's important to push for things culturally as well. And that's why I talk all the time about, to me, more important than what I'm doing on here politically is, am I a good father? Am I a good husband? Am I a good neighbor? Am I a good member of my community? And it's not just my community like here, my town. It's a good community like if I'm in a Dungeons and Dragons group, am I having fun in that community? If I'm in a fantasy football group, am I doing good in that community? Community in this sense, I just mean like a shared group of people, right? That are under some banner, whether it be a geographical banner, whether it be a collective interest of people you hang around with. That's the sort of community I'm talking about. It's best to have that community of people that meet each other face to face as opposed to just
Oh yeah.
digitally. But it's okay if it can only be digitally as well. But are you
Well, yeah.
building those communities that are healthy? And yeah, I think that that's important.
Book clubs are a big thing for that for me. Like I'm only in two book clubs where it's all digital on Discord. We're right now going through this Beauty, King in Yellow, collection of stories by Robert Chambers. I've
Mm.
heard it referenced in Lovecraftian and Cthulhu mythos circles for a long time, and I've wanted to read it. Finally ordered and got my copy from First Edition Books. Awesome bookstore in downtown Minneapolis that just reopened. Sadly, their grand reopening was kind of fudged on Saturday because of the No Kings horse crap. They were counting on having a good amount of foot traffic for the store's grand reopening, but they had to shut down for the day that they were supposed to do their grand reopening because they had hundreds of people being idiots walking right down the sidewalk in front of the store. They didn't want to risk getting any kind of damage to the store. I, however, thankfully have known the owner, Jacob Sullivan, for a few years. He's in one of my book club groups, and he sent me my copy. Much love to him. He's a great dude.
That's a great. That's
But
yeah.
yeah,
Someone was it you that recommended that book to me? Someone
I
just recommended that book to me.
I might have, but I don't know if I would have because I'm still working through it.
Yeah,
I prefer to wait to recommend a book
sure.
until I'm done with
Yeah.
it.
Well, hey,
But
it's always a pleasure, Byron. I think you're right that the culture stuff's very important. So I always appreciate the call. But
yeah,
we will talk soon. I got a bunch of other calls to get to, but it's a pleasure as always.
cheers, brother.
Take it easy, man. All right. Ron Quay, member for 9 months, says, "Oh shit, not the Panaverse."
I think I think I think he doesn't know the power of the Panelverse.
Oh shit, not the Panaverse. Oh no, not the fucking Panaverse. Beware the Panaverse. He doesn't run afoul of the Panaverse. Who could know the great Sarah Tomato? The power she wields, the power of the Panelverse. Ah, yes, the Panelverse. All right. And then Geoverse, great to hear from you, man. $5 says Discord mods are the worst. That's why I put my face behind what I say. Let's be honest. The Discord mods suck. The mods on my channel suck. The streamer here running this show sucks. Oh, wait. No, the streamer's good. The rest of the people also, I hear what you're saying. It's hard, as far as Discord and shit like that. oftentimes what happens is if you're communicating through text, whether it be a text message, Discord or something, sometimes the context or the tone gets lost in just written communication. And so, do you ever notice this? I do this all the time. Like, I'll text someone and then be like, "Oh, I hope they didn't think I sounded shitty." Someone will be like, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you, you know, I let you borrow those jumper cables. Can you bring them back today?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, of course." And I'm wondering, are they reading it like, "Yeah, of course." Fuck. Or, you know what I mean? It's like when really I just mean, "Yeah, no problem. I'll have it there. No problem." You see how the context is different? So, all right, Zenkrios, what's happening today, my friend?
Hey, Rob, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
I hear you just fine. It's doing great.
Awesome. Good to talk to you again. Wanted to talk with you. I heard during your opening monologue that you mentioned something about immigration and some of the things that we should look at when it comes to restricting or being more selective, right? And this is a big issue for me, immigration. I think that it's a cause of a lot of the polarization and fracturing you're seeing in our country today. We're really kind of in what I call the end game of the great immigration experiment that we've been playing around with for probably the last 50 years. We had a culture that was very cohesive. Over 90% of the population, all the way up until the early 1970s, identified as Christian. We had, I think even before that, we had quotas on immigration that were based on national origin, not just about, other factors or identifiers. And we were very selective, and we really only picked the best of the best and the people that we made a best guess that would work well and be cohesive with our existing culture.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that we really got away from that. People may not like this, but the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the executive orders and decrees of, Lyndon B. Johnson, and then continued on by Nixon, continued on by Reagan, just continuously compounded through different immigration policies that sounded good at the time, but are now showing the results to be very negative and are causing issues. I like to tell my friends, if a terrible event like September 11th ever happened again in this country, and hopefully, hope to God it never does, but if it ever did, I don't think this country would be nearly as united about the response, even if something like a World War II happened, right? A foreign country declared war against us. I don't believe that our country is cohesive enough today to even declare unilaterally a response against that, and that's really dangerous, right? That's really dangerous. I mean, that's the worst case scenario, but we see it today. I always believe that politics is downwind of culture, and what you're seeing, you talked about Mamdani, you talked about, Ilhan Omar, you talk about all these other representatives, Michigan, and the things that are happening there. These are simply just lagging indicators of the cultural diversity that we've been forced into, this forced diversity, as I like to call it, where we're importing people that are not cohesive with our culture. And we're seeing that now play out in regions of the country where you can actually, when somebody looks at your name and they say, "Oh, last name, Lopez," you can probably name 3 states in the United States and you'll be 100% correct on one of them where they live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's terrible. Where I work, I deal with a lot of paperwork, and I get a lot of names that come across my desk. And I got to tell you, it's really disheartening to see names that I'm just like, I don't recognize these names. I don't know who these people are. I can't even identify who these are.
Well, we're told we have to be shamed to even have that feeling, right? You're supposed to pretend, right? I'm supposed to pretend when I call and someone that could barely speak English is trying to help me, whether they're in the United States or outsourced to India. I'm supposed to pretend when someone of, a religion that's anathema to me, like Islam, moves in next to me, and then the house next to it, and the house next to it, and the house next to it. I'm supposed to be like, "Oh, I can't notice that," or I'm a bigot, right? I can't say anything if I notice that my city all of a sudden has 3 city blocks that's a bunch of people that just speak Spanish and could barely speak English. I'm supposed to act like, well, there's nothing wrong with that, and that's bullshit. There is something wrong with it. Again.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Like shared language is important. Shared
Yes.
culture is important. And you're absolutely right. It's something I've talked about a lot. I've talked about this, right? There was this show. I don't know if it was called Question Time or whatever. I don't think it was Question Time, but I used to watch these shows all the time from the UK and Canada and other places. They'd have these like talk shows. And one of the topics that came up in this one over and over and over and over and over again was, what does it mean to be British? And no one has an answer, right? To them, it's the same thing. What does it mean to be an American? Well, you're in America. Okay. And that's it. Then you're an American. And it's like, if you're not going to have a country for people based on like sort of ethnic cohesion or religious cohesion, there has to be a cohesion, right? It can't just be group of people living in an area. That can't be it, because like you said, I'm of the same, I've said the exact same thing on show. If 9/11 happened again today, I don't know what the response would be. I think 70 to 80% of the people would be like, oh my goodness, and come together. But there would be 20% that would be like, well, America's the great Satan. And you had this coming. What country did you fuck over that you had that coming? And it really is. It's like, how do you operate continually if you bring in a bunch of people of differing cultures? And you put them all together in a hodgepodge and say, now coexist.
Yeah.
It's not possible. It's ignoring. I'm not saying it's not possible in the sense that, oh, well, that just means they'll break out murdering each other. That could happen to some extent, but that's not necessarily the only evil or the only bad thing that could come from that. Like, there is no collectivization. I don't give a shit about my neighbor if I have nothing in common with my neighbor. I don't care. The fact that they're on land that's next to me means nothing at the end of the day, if we don't have a shared cultural background or something to bring us together. Maybe it's something as simple as we share values. We both share the values of the Constitution, of the Bill of Rights, or something like that. But even at that, we don't see this.
Well, okay. So here's where I'll push back a little bit on you here. I believe that there's three major pillars of culture. I think the first pillar is values and beliefs. The second one is norms and practices. And the third is rituals and traditions. I think that's what culture is, if you wanted to break it down. And I put values and beliefs as the first pillar because as a Christian, I believe that Christianity is the pillar that holds up the other pillars, if you want to call it. And, you talked earlier about, I think you mentioned something about, if I had a choice between, this guy that's going to support certain things, but he's not a Christian, and another guy that is Christian, but maybe, I don't care. I'll go with the guy that is going to support more things than, just, and not really only the Christian guy or something like that. Right. And I don't want to mischaracterize.
That's close. And I don't know that I was saying that today, but that's a belief that I would hold. I would rather a Christian that tells me that I'm an evil white man that must open the borders and be continually shamed because my ancestors took land from Native Americans. I would say fuck off more than someone that claimed to be an atheist, but was like totally respect Christian values and think that this is hogwash. This woke shit's hogwash. Right. I would rather go with the latter than the former. Yeah.
Well, as a Christian, I would call that Christian that you're describing
therein lies the problem.
But at the same time, I think what I want to try to emphasize here is, and I have some prescriptions like that I've thought of over the years, right? As I've seen this impact me. I'm a millennial, similar to Andrew, similar to yourself, I believe. I think we're all kind of in that
41,
like 30s, early 40s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all being impacted by this. We're now experiencing the results of all of the kumbaya on both sides of the aisle for the last 50 years that supported all these immigrations, these, very laissez-faire immigration policies. Now, before, just to kind of run down the historical route real quick, a couple of things that I think led to this, right? The biggest one I believe led to it was our change in immigration policy completely. And I do remember or recall that there was a significant change where I mentioned this when I first called in. We used to have a quota system that was based on national origin, right? We used to say, hey, you know what? European countries, Western European specifically, we want to favor you for immigration because we know you're already culturally cohesive. But maybe Asian countries or other, maybe like, and I'm talking like South Asia, like India and other countries like that, you're not maybe culturally cohesive with us. So we're going to limit that, or maybe even just ignore it, right? And not allow it. One of the things that I think that's important that we go back to, and a lot of people say that's discriminatory. Well, sure, making a decision one way or the other is always discriminatory, right? You're making a choice. That's what discrimination is. You're choosing one thing over another. But with immigration, I think that it's important that the first priority we look at is how will you be cohesive with our culture? That begins with Christianity. I know that I think the most recent polls from Pew in 2024, 62% of the U.S. identifies as Christian. And again, early
But
70s,
you already
it was
see the
90.
problem. You already see what I'm going to say in response to that. What
I know.
percentage of them would you call Christian?
Well, listen, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say the numbers are, accurate. Okay. Because you could make the same argument in the early 70s where 90% said they were, right?
Okay.
I'm sure there is going to be some sort of deviation in that number where you'll say, hey, okay, out of the 70, probably 75, 70%, but out of that 60, maybe only 40%, right? I'm sure there's a healthy number that matches that you can match up on both ends. But the key is to get that identifying number as high as possible, right? So that way that deviation isn't any lower than you want it to be or that you
But
prefer.
how do you do that in our current system? Because what you're going to suggest is we only allow Christians into the country.
Well, I would say, here's the thing. I call this the great
You are
backfire.
aware that more than 50% of self-identified Christians would vehemently disagree with you. That's in addition. So if only 60% of the country identifies as Christian, and at least 50% of that 60% is going to say we completely disagree with you, and the other 30% are certainly going to disagree with you. Okay, now we have 70 to 80% of the country that vehemently disagrees with you. So what do you do?
Well, okay, in that scenario, I mean, there's not a lot you can really do. You're going to have to dramatically change the culture. And that includes, ending any kind of immigration policy to countries that are just, and you can identify this beyond just a name, a self-identification. I mean, everybody can self-identify whatever they want, but we can see actual cultures in action and in play, right? Like if someone says like, 60% of India is Christian. Oh, no, you're not. We know you're not. You can call yourself whatever you want, but you're not.
But this is, I don't disagree. But it's going to be difficult given the foundational documents of this country, right? Well, I don't even want to say that.
Which documents?
Let me.
Okay.
It will be difficult. That's sort of irrelevant. I misspeak there, but I can make that claim if necessary. But it will be difficult to say someone that comes to this country and says, I'm not a Christian. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in all the precepts of the laws that come through Christianity. I accept that the greatness of the United States come through fundamental Christian beliefs. However, I myself am not a Christian to say, sorry, pound sand.
Yeah.
When 80% of the country is going to say, no, I disagree. Whereas the person that comes in that says, I'm a self-identified Christian, you all need to give the land back to the Native Americans because Jesus says to turn the other cheek, and we can't be wealthy, and we need to have socialized medicine, and we need to have, all of this shit. And you're going to say, but I identify that person's not really a Christian. So now we have to have a debate of what is the real Christianity, right? So the problem with that is now it would be no different than saying only true conservatives should be allowed into the country. And it's like, well, who gets to pick who the true conservative is? And that's that's where I differentiate. I don't see Christianity as a I don't necessarily align Christianity always with a political party. You have to understand, back in the 50s and 60s, a lot of Christians were Democrats. You said this yesterday. We used to just argue over the smallest thing, like what do we do with the tax dollars we collect? But everybody agreed on constitutional rights, bear arms. But that's, you understand, we're nowhere near that now.
Well, I understand that, but the reason why we're not is not because we're not importing the right Christians. It's because we're not importing Christians at all. And that's my point.
But Christians are like this around the world, right? For example, in the UK, you have old historical churches that are allowing graffiti to be put inside them. Right? And that are LGBT. I mean, we have the Pope is open borders.
Now you're talking but you're talking backbone versus true belief, right?
Okay.
And in the UK, they just don't have the backbone to back it up.
If I'm Catholic, who do I look through as the true interpreter of like the Word of God? Who's the highest person?
Well, I mean, if you're Catholic, you're gonna, unfortunately, you're gonna look for the Pope, right? You're gonna that's.
So if the Pope's open borders, should we bring in Catholics that are open borders?
Well, I don't believe so, no.
Okay, but are you going to argue they're not really Christian?
No, I'm not going to argue if they're really Christian or not. But I will say
you understand,
this,
I would rather take
indicator.
someone who literally abides by the law and culture that doesn't call themselves a Christian, that wouldn't be open borders, than a Catholic that says, I am open
Vivek
borders.
Ramaswamy, as an example?
Yes.
Vivek Ramaswamy is super pro, you could say conservative, right?
Sure.
But you know what the problem with Vivek Ramaswamy is? When you ask him about actual issues like I don't know if I can say this, abortion, is that okay to say on the
Yeah.
Okay. if you ask him about abortion and some of his stances that are very important to our culture and what I believe Christian culture, he's not going to align anywhere near what a Christian believes. Anywhere near. He, in fact, has already stated he does not support a federal ban. He supports states' abilities to determine it, but he believes in a compromise that's necessary of a 6-week ban.
Okay, well, what percentage of Christians do you think support 100% no abortion?
What percentage of Christians?
Correct.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't even be able. I mean, let's just say 60%. I'm throwing a number out, of course.
My guess is that Vivek's position on abortion is actually more conservative, more anti-abortion than most self-identified Christians. That's my guess. I think most self-identified Christians would say, I could go past 6 weeks.
But do you see how the culture is now impacting Christians' beliefs in a way, or their interpretation of their beliefs? That's the problem. That's the problem. You go back to when.
But
the
again,
what
you're telling me,
Christian,
but here's the problem. What you're telling me is, so instead of bringing in a staunch pro-life atheist or a staunch pro-life Jewish person or a staunch pro-life Hindu who's pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-First Amendment, pro all the values of Christianity, he's against all the crime that's festering, he's against all the woke bullshit, I tell that guy, nay, you can't come in. Instead, I take the Catholic that's open borders, pro-choice, pro-LGBT.
I reject that. I reject the way you're framing that because you're saying that, well, it's either this guy is an atheist, but he's everything else he's perfect on, which is extremely rare, or I'm going to go ahead and say, here's a Catholic or a Christian that is completely goes against and defies completely what they are taught and what they believe in or what their belief system is.
But again, that's
extremely
rare.
Again,
but one, it doesn't matter as a practical sense because you will never achieve the political will to do what you're suggesting. If you're saying, let's just say hypothetically, you're like, actually, the only true Christians are 5% of us. That's it. The rest are all believing things that aren't true Christianity. And they'll say, I disagree with you. Nonetheless, you'd say, I'm right and you're wrong. Catholics, you're wrong. You look to your Pope's open border, you're wrong. You're not a true Christian. Like, okay, even if you say that and you reject it, that is the reality, right? Like, for example, just cursory look when we take the issue of abortion.
Yeah.
If you take legal in most cases, evangelical Protestants, 24% of self-identified think that abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Mainline Protestants, 64% pro-choice. Catholics, 59%.
Yeah.
Black Protestants, 71%. Other denominations of Christians, 50 to 60%. Right. All U.S. Christians, 55% identify as more pro-choice than pro-life.
Okay, great. Is a Mormon a Christian?
I don't know. I would say yes.
Well, they identify as Christians, but
yes.
as a Christian myself, I don't see them as a Christian.
Okay, but let's
because
say
they don't share they don't believe in the Trinity.
Okay, well then what percentage of Christians believe in a manner that you would say makes them really Christian?
Well, I would say where my number would come from, I'm looking at it here again, like white evangelical Protestants, 73% believe in total abortion ban. Catholics, 59% of U.S. Catholics believe in a total abortion ban.
Now, are you sure? What I'm looking at says 59%.
Looking at Pew Research. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm looking at this is claiming to be from Pew. Right. It says 59% against it.
You're right. Unfortunately, 41% of Catholics in the U.S. Believe that in the full abortion ban. So you're right. There's an internal issue here when you use the word Christian, right? That word is used in many different ways that people are going to disagree with. Okay. I guess what I'm trying to focus on is that, it always comes down to this. We can all get along as you do things my way, right? And so what I'm basically saying is, just like everyone else probably is, hey, I'm good at getting along with you as long as you're Christian the way I want to be. I want a Christian, right? Or that I believe a Christian.
Yeah, but my claim is, I would rather, if I had to build this society up, I have a better chance of converting someone to Christianity whose values are already, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-strong borders, I'm pro-First Amendment, I'm pro-Second Amendment, and anti-LGBT, than I have of convincing a Christian that is all of those things, that's not real Christianity.
I agree. I was just using your example where you were taking the example of, hey, this person is an atheist and they share some values, but then they also defy a lot of other values, that a Christian.
Well, I don't. Who
versus a Christian that Vivek Ramaswamy.
Okay, but what
values? A perfect
values?
example. He does not share almost none of the values of Christianity does he share.
So you
of the
outlined
beliefs.
abortion, which he's more right wing than most Christians
Yeah.
on abortion.
He also heavily supportive of the H-1B visa program. And the
Okay,
immigration
that's the
program
one
we
issue
have.
I've been critical of him. Yeah,
That's a really bad stance. I mean, those are the
Agreed.
two big ones.
but I mean,
And,
again, the Pope. I go to a Catholic church. The Pope's basically open borders.
Sure, I get it, but I'm not Catholic. And as we've seen, Catholics are, in the U.S. at least, are somewhat lost. Let's be honest.
I don't disagree with that. I think there's a problem.
So-
I can't speak to specific denominations, but I think
Right,
it's
right,
safe to say that there's a lot of Christians that I think are lost.
I agree.
But
why
for various reasons.
The question is, why are they lost? And I think that the culture around them is really infectious, right? You go back and look at the numbers from the early 70s when it was at their peak of the self-identifying 90% Christians. It was a very different outlook. Very different. They saw all these things that we're talking about, and the numbers would be skewed completely the other way, I believe. I don't know how much they talked about it per se, but I guess what I'm getting at here is that I want to see a Christian nation again, but I also know that it's hard to keep things the same forever, and so I understand what I'm trying to do is reduce that friction, right, and increase the cohesion.
I guess I'm trying to do so in a different way. So I talked to this guy, Indian Jesus, the other day, and he would be directly criticizing you. He would say, here are these people on the right, what I share almost every opinion with. I'm with them on abortion. I'm with them on the border. I'm with them on the woke chant. And they tell me, get out of my face. You're not a Christian. Nope. We don't want you as part of our coalition. And what that does is doom you to perpetual losses in our current system. If you're unwilling to work with those people, you lose. It's that simple.
I disagree with people that wouldn't work with him. I would be one that would work with him. It is not a finite, if you're Christian or not Christian, that's the litmus test.
So then if we agree that the problem with what we see is some Christians going sort of a way of what we would want Christianity to be is culture, I think that it's better to bring people in that culturally are exhibiting close to what we would expect real Christians to do that don't self-identify as real Christians.
Right. I don't want a bunch of
bring the Christians
in name only, right?
Correct.
Like we've suffered that with the rhinos for a long time,
Correct.
all the way up until this point. I don't want somebody that just identifies as that, but then the fruits of the spirit, their results of that or what their actions are completely, different from that, right? It differs from what they say they are. So just saying you're Christian is very different than, being Christian, but I want to kind of, I don't want to go on too long on this because I think we agree.
Yeah, I do. I think we largely agree too. Let's say the area of agreement we have. The area of agreement we have is this. If we keep importing people that are so antithetical to our culture, and our culture stems first and foremost from our religion, then don't be surprised when our religion is perverted and our culture never gets better.
Correct.
And so a precursor is we have to choose. We may differ on the margins, which by the way is more interesting to talk about the differences, but I think we're in 98% agreement that fundamentally the problem is that we're not importing people. We're either just bringing in people because they straight up want to change demographics because they hate us, or people like Vivek are suggesting bringing in people for who could create the most widgets, who could be the most productive, but that's missing the most important.
GDP go up.
Right. The most important key point is we need people that share our values and way of life.
Correct.
And if we don't have that, then we don't have a cohesive country and we don't have a culture. And if we don't have that, then what's really bringing us together as a country? Which to me is the fundamental, that's exactly the point of it.
Yep.
The point of it from these perspective of the people that I think are globalists is they want to erode national borders. And so what better way to do it to say there's no shared history, there's no shared culture between person A and person B living next to each other. All of you are interchangeable. You could move wherever we think you'd be most productive. Oh, your skills would be most productive in Colombia? Pack your bags, buddy. You're heading to Colombia. It doesn't matter that you have no connection to Colombia. After all, what's Colombia than just a fake geographical...
Well, what are these borders for anyways?
The borders are all fake anyways.
Right.
That's right. And so that's the point, that when you break people up culturally, and then what do they look to? Simultaneously, what do? They want to break your spirit and religion. Yes. They want to subvert your religion. Now, who are you ultimately looking to as the authority? Those with power, the neo-feudalists, the lords on the hill, the globalists that are the ones that think that they'll be running, the haves, the 10% of the elites in the world, and they will look at us as just cattle, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with you there. I
do want to give you one thing to think about. I'm curious about your thoughts. I'll kind of leave you with this, right? So I've been thinking about this whole voting, right? I don't like I'm very similar to Andrew and his thought process, and I think you might be somewhat on board with this, but I believe in expanding the suffrage. I don't believe that everybody should be able to vote, and I mean that not just like I'm not just like men should be able to vote only. I'm saying like many people in this country shouldn't be able to vote.
I'll have to let you go because I got a lot of other people, but I'll answer here
sure.
real quick. It's a compelling argument. I set what I think, again, I'll repeat as I said earlier tonight. I think that the limitation to voting that almost all of us should be able to agree to that would solve 80% of our problems are people, except under strict circumstances such as in critical health or serving in the military, you should have to have an ID and vote in person. That solves 80% of our problems. Can I be compelled to believe that there are other metrics that you should have to achieve before you can have access to voting? Possibly. I certainly think that willfully, even without changing the law, if you're unwilling to try to find an issue that you care about and look into it, no, you shouldn't vote. If you're admittedly ignorant on all of the issues and the candidates, then you shouldn't vote. All right, thanks so much. I know we spent a lot of time on that call, but I found it to be interesting. Zachary Gelpy, thanks so much for the $10. Says, beware the panel of the power of the Panelverse. I'm screwing it up now. King of all pixels, $5 says, can you explain the appeal of anime to me? I've had so many friends suggest it. I've tried and I just don't get it. I've seen Full Metal Brotherhood. I think anime, the appeal of it is long, drawn-out, structured characters and stories that are usually of an epic scale, right? And so there's an appeal to that, particularly for me, like sort of like the old, like the same appeal that you'd see from something like Lord of the Rings. There's this huge world, and it's expansive, and you're following these characters on this journey where they're like almost leveling up. They're becoming more and more powerful, and it's this sort of hero's journey that's brought out over a long period of time. That, to me, is the appeal of it. This is different than like a show that's maybe 8 episodes or a 2-hour movie. Those could be cool too, but they're in a very limited slice. The reason that sequels are so big is because people often want more of those characters and more of those stories. Problem is, because it's a self-contained story and then it leads to a sequel, oftentimes what you get is it's not a true continuation in the sense that maybe you could see in an anime. Now, certainly animes run afoul of this as well, but if you see like a 26 episode anime, that's a long, at 20 minutes a piece or 30 minutes a piece, that's a long time to tell a story of these drawn out characters of this sort of like traditional hero's journey. Lower class, $5 says, no King's protest did nothing, and immigration protests in other countries far overshadowed the pathetic boomer LARP. Totally agree with that. Kokomo, 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much. Verna Desert, $20 says, why were or what made a population a higher percentage Christians? Well, because as we've proceeded forward and got more and more decadent and more degenerate, and the Christianity's been more and more watered down, I think less and less people look to it. People tend to look to religion when there's having troubles in life. I'm no different. It's sad. You're always going to God when you need help, right? It's easier to go to God when you need help than when things are going well, and you're reminded to be thankful to God. And that's true culturally over time. So as more and more abundance and more like regress and, through convenience, and abundance, people have turned from God. And I think as times get harder, you'll see them turn back. Zenkrios, thanks so much for the conversation and becoming a member. Let's try to hit our goal at $357. Now, I apologize. As I always say, I spend way too much time on the early calls, but hey, that's the nature of the game. So let's get quick through the calls. We'll go 5 minutes apiece. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 callers lined up. Fallen Heathen, how you doing today, my friend?
Pretty good, dude. I'm actually, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I used to catch all kinds of little critters, lizards, frogs, snakes, all kinds of stuff, and keep them in some sort of terrarium. And yesterday, my boy found a couple of frogs in a little pool we got out front. So we've been messing around with these little cages the last day or two. It's pretty fun.
That's cool. We got my son a bug catching kit last year for his birthday.
Here you go.
It's better than like any electronic toy. He loves it. It was like $5, just a little net and a little magnifying glass and like a little tube. I remember when shit, this would have been before I was married. I went with my parents, me and my now wife went with my parents and my brothers and sisters to Orlando. And we went to SeaWorld and Universal Studios and stuff like that. So we get into SeaWorld. Now, the entire idea of SeaWorld is there's all these cool, Shamu and dolphins and sharks.
Breaks my heart.
They had this dog show. Well, I never really been to Florida before. There's these little lizards that just run wild in Florida. And my dad sat there for an hour with like a little cup and a stick making a little trap. It's like, Dad, there's all this cool shit to stuff. And he's like, I'm going to catch me one of these lizards, So yeah, that's, for those of us that don't see lizards like that, that was more interesting than SeaWorld. It's like, look at the little lizards running around. So
that's funny. Yeah, yesterday he was flipping over rocks looking for bugs and stuff to put in this frog cage. And we found 2 of these little snakes. So now he's got 2 snakes, a gecko, and 2 frogs, all in these little cages.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
so a couple of things that you and Andrew both had kind of touched on last night on your guys' shows, and just got me thinking about, instead of you guys all the time doing all these debates, online, have you guys thought about just putting on more events? I know, logistically it's harder because everyone has to come to a set location, but maybe like jump around from state to state to get people together. I just think like that bullshit with Connor where he threatened you, like just much like Ryan called your bluff the other night, you would have had to call his bluff and he would either look like a bitch or had to hit you and then look like an asshole, right? And
Yeah, I mean, 2 answers to this question. The easy answer to your question is yes, stay tuned. The other answer is it is difficult to get people to show up in real life. Now, let me explain something about, let's just use Andrew as an example, but I don't mean just him, but you'll see what I mean. Andrew could do a TikTok invasion tonight and probably raise $3,000 in 3 hours, right? Even if he doesn't do a TikTok invasion, is anyone here prepared to say any sort of stream that Andrew would do tonight for 3 hours, let's say, he could probably make $1,000? I don't think anyone's that, right? There are certainly other streamers that are capable of that on the left, etc. How do you convince that person to show up to do an in real life event?
So that was my what got me thinking about this was there's this jiu-jitsu guy who was going to all of these big events and just smashing through everyone, and he got to a point where, why am I wasting my time going to these events for a medal and I sell a couple of DVDs, instructional DVDs? I'm going to put on super fights. So then he was like, I want to fight this guy. We need to get people, sponsors and stuff involved to raise like $1 million. Winner gets $1 million type thing. Would you guys be able to get, charge, $10, $25 to people come and see, get sponsors involved and pay to put on a debate?
Yes, that's what it requires. So, for example, DebateCon, I don't know. That's not the Crucible running it. Now, the Crucible's doing an after party and a before party, and Grid's doing his own thing, which Grid's on here. So, right? But my understanding is the DebateCon, the big debaters are being paid an amount to get there.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to make is if you're going to do events and you want big names, you have to provide an incentive. It's not just enough to be like, I'll put you up in a hotel, right? Because it's like for Andrew, if he goes, let's just say you said he could make $1,000 a night streaming, right? I could make $357 a night stream, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay, I can do that, no problem. So if I go there, that's a night I don't get to stream. So right out of the gate, I'm out $357. So just to break even, you would have to pay me $357. Plus then I'm going to have an airplane ticket or gas if I'm driving. Plus I have to have a hotel, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you incentivize those people to come, right? And so what it usually ends up is you have to pay them a reasonable amount of money, or you create something that on its own is prestigious, that people want to show up for, to participate in. So to answer your question, yes, we have thought about it. I know Grid's thought about this. I know James from Modern Day Debates thought about it. And I even know, despite our falling out, Sarah's thought about this. You want to get people. Grid will tell you right now, he's having problems getting left-wingers to show up to this thing. Now, the reason is because the people that are all setting this up tend to lean right-leaning. It's going to be a lot of Crucible people. So why would you want to come if you're like some left-winger, if you're not going to get paid handsomely? Because it's not like you're hanging out with your friends. It's a bunch of people that in general you don't agree with. So it is hard to set these things up. And I tip of a cap to anyone, whether I like them or not. And the same is true of like, if Destiny and them are putting on an event. I understand that it's difficult to create these events to get people to come. You have to have a spectacle of it. It has to be fun. And this is true of the audience as well. But yes, you're absolutely right. And we are considering that. Stay tuned. I think there'll be some stuff coming up with like sort of an understanding of that idea of how do we get people to do more in real world events. And I think that it's better than the panel stuff, because I think being in person tends to lead to a more exciting but also moderated experience. Right? It's
So
harder to just scream
that's what I
over
was getting
someone.
at. Yeah, that's what I was getting at, was like, I don't think, because people are brave when they're online. Like I said, Connor threatening you online, like he most likely wouldn't have done that in person, not because he's afraid, just because he had to stand on business if you called his bluff. type thing, and yeah, it's easier to moderate. Another thing, what is like your objective with doing these online debates? Because I feel like this show is having more of an impact changing people's minds than winning these arguments online. You know, like usually people that watch these debates are fans of either side and they show up to cheer you on. You know what I mean? Like I show up to watch a debate because I know you're going to smack them around, not because I think Destiny might change my mind on a few things. And I don't know. I just think, and then they farm clips for their show the next day. You know what I mean? I think that your show as a whole is doing more to change minds and change culture than winning these arguments, basically.
That could be true. My goal is, so it's sort of changed, though it's basically the same. When I did this show as a hobby, the reason that I do online debates, any of them, is because they're fun. That's
Okay.
it. The entire purpose of my streaming was because I enjoy it. If it's not for money, if it's just a hobby, like I might say to you, why do you go hunting? Why do you play Call of Duty? Now you may say, I go hunting because I need to get a deer every year to feed my family. That's different, right? But a lot of people go hunting because it's like, I enjoy it. It's nice to get out in the wilderness, right? Like if it ceases to become fun, like if you
I would say I bass fish and I don't keep any of the fish.
Right.
I get the concept.
So if you had chronic back pain, for example, and you go out bass fishing and you're miserable, after 2 or 3 times, you could be like, I'm not going to do this anytime I'm miserable. It's no longer fun, right? So that's number one. I did the debates because I debated in college and I loved it. I loved the competition of it. And I wanted to do something that's similar to that. It's not the same, but similar. That was number one. The other reason is because I think my audience likes it. Now the priorities changed a little, now that this is my career. When I ask my audience, and I do a lot because I look for feedback, what's the content you like the best of me? You know what the number one thing they say is? Debates.
Oh, really?
And so it's like, okay, I agree. I like the debates. That works out well for me. But where are you going to get them? Like, what's it going to look like? Now, you can set up debates, and there's problems. Like, there's certain characters of whatever that it's like you get fed up with them, this, that, and the other, so it's hard to set up a debate. But the easiest thing to do is people that are setting up these sort of open panels. I know on Friday, Speakeasy's going to be doing verbal combat. So if I want to debate with zero prep, that I could just be like, hey, I could hop in, debate, want to do it for 40 minutes, then leave, no problem. That is so nice for me, right? Because it's there if I want it. I could leave anytime I want. No one's pissed off because the nature of it is it's sort of open. That's sort of, for me, the appeal to the open panel thing, right? The debates that I take, a lot of them, people roll their eyes like, why would you debate these people again? They're so bad faith. Well, because that's largely what my audience wants. They want to see, and a lot of the legitimate pushback for me leaving that debate the other night was, there wasn't people who were like, I hate Rob. It wasn't even that you're a bitch, Rob. There was certainly some of that on both of those accounts, but a lot of it was, I was excited to see that debate.
Yeah,
I get that. I do.
Bummed. I was a little bummed that you left so quick. I was like, man, I wish you would have.
Did you watch last night though?
Yeah, I'm saying I wish you'd given it a little more time, and then I got more context as the next couple of days went over, and I was like, yeah, I understand why he was so annoyed. But yeah,
I went for like 15 minutes of that debate with Ryan last night because Ryan's take was that I saw he was prepared. So I was like, I need to find an excuse to get out. Okay, dude. Like, listen, I'll tell you right now, when I'm in a debate and I realize like, oh, fuck, I actually get excited because what that leads me to be, I'll give you an example. The last time I debated Pisco on sort of the definition of, it was some absurd legal debate that no one gave a shit about. What was it? The definition of sovereignty or the definition of, I can't remember, but I thought I did fine in the debate, but there were holes in my argument. And I spent like fucking 6 hours researching the next day, a topic that no one in the world gives a shit about. Jurisdiction. Yeah. It was what the word jurisdiction means. But I was excited because I was like, oh, here's shit that I need to get better at, right? So I don't have a problem with that. And I'll fully admit when someone like beats me in an argument or something, it excites me, right? But the idea that, that was what was going on with Coder was laughable. But that's why I do the debates in general. I enjoy them. Now, there comes a point where it's like, in your stage of debate, I'll give you, this is so shitty to say. I fucking hate saying this stuff, but like when I was a varsity level debater in college, when I was at the top level, right? It didn't make sense for me to walk into my school's debate and be like, okay, novices, let's do a debate. Observation 1, proliferation. We see that the U.S. nuclear threat. And they're going to be like, what? What the fuck's this guy? Yeah. What's the point of that debate for me? Like, what's the point? Now, I'm not saying that it's a skill issue necessarily, but at some point, you want to debate against other people, even if you don't think they're as good as you or you think they're so. You want to debate with other people that are on your level in terms of they're approaching the debate in a similar fashion than you. And a lot of the open panel people, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but they're not doing it in the same way, right? They're doing it as more of a like, well, this is a conversation between 8 people and you get your barbs in and whatever, but it's not really like a one-on-one, 2 people trying to be like, okay, let's talk about this issue. And yeah, we could throw little jabs here and there and insult each other, but basically it's the issue that we're talking about. So for me, that's what I'm looking for going on. Just like what you're getting out of novice, just entry level people in collegiate debate is different when you're getting at the highest level of it. It's the same game, it's the same rules, but what those people are trying to get out of it are 2 different things. The novice debater's probably there for class. They're there to get a grade. They don't really give a shit at the end of the day. The varsity debater's spending 60 hours a week busting their ass in the most nuanced arguments you can imagine. Trying to fucking down into minutia of Aegis missile systems and this and that no one in the world gives a shit about other than these people playing this game. So, but I'll give you the last word. Then I gotta go. I got a bunch of other callers to get to, so we only have 5 minutes to caller. But always a pleasure, my friend. Go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah. So I just kind of feel like the whole debate space is kind of getting watered down. In fact, one of my new subscribers yesterday was like, you should start doing panels. And I'm like, you know what? I want to help out in this space in a different way. It just seems like there's a lot of this people that want to debate and people that are hosting debates going on. And I just figured there might be different avenues of doing it. But and like I said, you've gotten to a level of skill that's like arguing over each other on these online panels to me just seems like other people have said a waste of time. You're better than this, and I think you could make it more productive, in person style, and maybe raise more money. But I don't know. I don't know. I'll talk to you next time, I guess.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. No, I don't disagree. One of the things I don't think I would ever do the panels. I did the arena. It was sort of fun. It was more of a jovial type. We had topics like, should we fat shame people? We'd have a 3-on-3 debate on that. I think one thing I may consider doing, and this isn't, I don't think, stepping on anyone's toes too much in the hosting debate sphere, I wouldn't mind hosting debates that are 1-on-1 or possibly 2-on-2 for people, specifically designed for people that want to get into debate, but that are more seriously moderated, right? And so maybe 2 people that want to do something like, is hunting ethical? 2 people on either side of that debate, and try to have it a little more stringent, and then maybe also have a part of it to sort of at the end of the debate give my thoughts on here's who I thought did better, here's what I thought were strong and weak points. Do you guys agree or disagree with me on that? But have it set up more something like that, in particular geared towards members of my community, but certainly I would open it up to people that weren't, as long as they realize this is the purpose of this debate. So I thought about something like that. But the brief answer to Heathen's question is absolutely not just me, not just Andrew, not just other people at the Crucible, but also people like James and other content creators that do these online debates are thinking about how to make these more in person and sort of what that would change the format. So I know that's true. So Jared Bird, $10 says, take my money. Happily will do so. Thank you so much. I'll take anyone else's money as well, including one of the most generous supporters to me, our friend Gully, $50 says L Day Shift takes a night shifter to hit the goal. Oh, snap. I suppose someone from Day Shift's going to have to throw $50 just to shove it in Gully's face. But you know what that means? Go! Thank you so much, Gully. Day Shift's going to have to throw another $50 just to equal the goal, though. But, all right. Moving on. Average Siege. What's happening, my friend? We got 5 minutes. What's up?
Hey, boss. Not much. I called in before I changed my name. I'm trying to get ready to enter the online space. I was Bladeworks before.
Oh, nice. Yes. Well, great to talk to you again. So what's on your mind?
Not much. I just enjoy listening to you wax on political topics, so I figured I'd throw an idea your way and see what you had to say about it.
Sure.
So in the same vein as ambulances emit pollution, but they provide an objective good in terms of public utility. Mm-hmm. Are there any perceived evils or bad practices in government that you believe are necessary?
Yeah, I mean, so for someone who's still at some point, I got two wolves in me, like sort of the libertarian and then sort of the Christian, and sort of like I would think that like the idea of sending in the National Guard would be one of those. I think that's bad practice in general. I don't want to see federal troops on the ground, and I talked about this during the Black Lives Matter rallies. The idea that we had sort of all of these lefties that are rioting, and then the media that's sort of gaslighting us about it, and then all of these left-wing mayors and governors like, what can we do? To me, it led to a terrible outcome no matter what we did, right? Outcome one was we just allow these people to riot, and the lessons learned in this country, if you want to use political violence and terrorism, you could get away with it. Option two was we send in the National Guard against the will of these mayors and governors. Not a good option, but better than option one. And option three is we let the people take care of it, and we have roof Koreans. We have Kyle Rittenhouse. That's what happens. You have Americans that take matters in their own hands, say, okay, we're going to arm ourselves. We'll use lethal violence to protect ourselves and our community. And I don't want to see that, right? Because that quickly could spiral out of control. And so, even though it's what I would say is a necessary evil, I thought option two was best. Sending in the National Guard. There's other things that I could look at like this. Do I think that detaining children in cages is a good thing? No, it's objectively a bad thing. But what's the alternative? Do you put the kid, if anyone who crosses the border with a kid, you put them in the same detention center? Adults with children? You don't even know if that's their parent? That seems like a bad idea.
Right.
Do you detain them separately? Like it's what we're doing in the status quo? Okay. Right? Do you let the child through and put them in some sort of foster care while you detain the adult? That seems bad. People are going to say, oh my God, you just took someone's child away. Or anyone who comes to the border with a child, do you say, sorry, I guess we have to let them in? That seems bad. So even though there's no good option, the best option at that point would be, yeah, we have to detain that child. There's tons of examples of this. Abortion law. Do I think it's a good thing when people say, listen, if a young girl is SA'd and gets impregnated in some of the most horrific ways possible, should we be allowed to terminate the pregnancy? And my answer is no, because it's still a human life. Mm-hmm. Is that horrible and terrible for that young woman? Of course. But it's the lesser of two evils in that extent. And there are other things, right? Like, as much as I hate to say, I'm a huge hater of the Patriot Act, right? Is there ever a time and a place for when government overreach and something like that in a benevolent, intelligent sort of system would violate rights to protect us to some extent? Yeah, I can think of hypothetical scenarios. If there's credible evidence that some terrorist is 24 hours away from detonating a nuclear bomb, do I want Jack Bauer breaking some fingers or waterboarding someone? Maybe. Is breaking fingers and waterboarding objectively bad? Of course. Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough because all of these things, unless you're a complete government dictatorial communist, right, or authoritarian, where it's like you have no say over anything in your life, the government has 100% control over you, or you're a complete ANCAP, never any government control, do whatever the fuck you want all the time, right? All of us somewhat agree that there are times and place for government interventions, right? It's just we're going to disagree on what that threshold is. And there are certainly times where I say my impetus to say that I'm distrusting of the government to wield authority, that there are times that authority is necessary. So in general, yeah, I think those would be some general examples I would give.
Okay. What would you say about, and I'm curious because you've kind of seen a little bit of the baseball here. I know you did a run for, was it Congress?
Yes, in 2019, yeah.
Right. So what's your position on lobbying as a practice as whole? What are some of the advantages of it? And I mean, I think common perception is that politicians don't really represent their constituents, their interests, nearly to the same degree as they represent their donors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's I heard Ben Shapiro make this argument, I think debating Cenk Uygur a long time ago. Mm-hmm. If you get lobbyists out of the game, what are you left with? Right. So for example, lobbying theoretically is an extension of free speech. Like me, the individual, if you decide, you're going by the name Average Siege now, if you decide I'm going to run for Congress, why shouldn't I be allowed to fuck yeah, man, here's a bunch of money, win. I think you're a great guy. You never have to give me anything in return. I just respect what you're doing and I believe your message. Why shouldn't I be allowed to do that? my money is an extension of my work and my labor, which I should be allowed to freely exchange for any reason I want. And my money in this form becomes a form of my speech, and that my speech is, I want you to win. And I could be on the corner every day yelling, this is why you should win. This is why he's the best. This is what you, but instead of that, because I have other priorities, I give money to help that speech get out there to the people. Right. And if you eliminate that, okay. So if we say that you can't have lobbyists and shit, well, then where is the majority of the voice going to come from? Well, it's changing now with social media, but let's table that for a second. Let's say circa 2002. What would be the media, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how else are you going to get your message out there without like ads? You don't have money for ads and stuff. Sure, you can have people, small donations, send in money, then you can put an ad on cable TV, whatever, right? But why is GM deciding to send $500,000 to you to get elected so that you could buy ads to get your message out there? Why is that any worse than NBC News giving you $500,000 of free ad revenue or free, reach to the people while they're shitting on your opponent? What makes one ethical and the other not? Right? And that's the problem. If you just say, no, all of these big businesses, these lobbyists should be taken out of the game, then what are we left with? CNN, New York Times, ABC, NBC, PBS? And I wonder what direction they're going to go. Right? So at some point, it seems like sour grapes when people are like, oh, damn that Elon Musk. Right. But you didn't give a shit, right, when it was all these other places that are doing this shit. And the example Ben gives to Cenk Uygur is like, you built the Young Turks with like tens of millions of dollars that were gifted to you by a millionaire. Mm-hmm. How's that any different? And then you promote progressive politics. How's that any different? Right? And so there's questions to it. Obviously, the negatives are, the incentive is, it's human nature to want... Gully 46 just gave me $50, right? Gully is a huge donor. Now, let's say that there's someone else that's given $2 one time. If they get in an argument in chat and it's unresolvable and one of them has to go, where do you think my base nature is going to be? I'm going to be like, well, Gully's giving me an awful lot of money, right? So even if I try to be as impartial as possible, the truth is, there's going to be a subconscious bias in me that's like, I want to side with Gully. Gully gives me money, right? I don't want to kick out the dude that's giving me hundreds upon hundreds of dollars to keep the dude that gave me $2 if all things are equal. They're both just unreasonable, but you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't help that when it comes to lobbying. And I've talked to a dude who's a congressman. He's a great dude, and he explained this to me about lobbying. And you tell me what you think about this. He says, listen, I'm pro-oil, right? I'm pro-net. He's big, he's a Pennsylvania guy, big on fracking, drill baby drill type guy, right? And he is. I know he is. He's a great dude. He says, if some group comes to me, some green energy group, and gives me $100,000, why shouldn't I take it? I'm just going to take it and say, cool, keep drilling. But why shouldn't I? Instead, I should let my opponent take it? He's like, the problem's not the lobbying. The problem is that I listened to them because they sent me money. That's the problem. But then the counter argument to that is like, yeah, but you can't help yourself. Most people, it would take a very strong-willed person to say, you know what, I'm about to fuck these people over that give me $100,000, which probably means they could give me $100,000 next time, which probably means my chances of winning have slightly decreased. And if that happens enough times, then I'm not going to win, right? And so I'm going to go along to get along. So
well, you're not even going to be able to convince people, I mean, with just transparency on who your donors are, that you aren't doing some kind of tit for tat service, regardless of whether or not you already held those positions before you took the donation, right?
Correct. And so, like, let's say that if I could tell you, hypothetically, if we got rid of lobbying because of the institutional structural advantages, the people that control our narrative through is the majority of people, let's say definitely before Elon bought X, the people that controlled social media, the people that controlled the bulk of our mainstream media, that there would be a huge structural advantage for the Democrats if there was no lobbying. And that would lead to, let's hypothetically say you're conservative, that would lead to outcomes that you really dislike. But if you allowed lobbying, you would have people like Elon Musk that would be able to put enough money in that would mean that Republicans and real Christian conservatives would have more victories. Would you be against it?
No, I think I'm still kind of fleshing out my understanding of
it's
how it works.
It's a tough conversation. It really is. In general, it's popular to just be like, screw lobbying. And I'm there 90% of the way. Don't get me wrong. I'm there. but I understand there are arguments on the other side of this. It's like, well, then if you could have a true fair system where it was like, there was no advantage. Well, you can go the opposite way with it. Well, let's have, what do they call it? the idea of like the Fairness in Media Act or whatever. Each candidate that runs should get equal time. Okay, let's say that's the case. So then 20 candidates run. Now what? They all get equal time? Right? Like, it's like, so there's no, I think certainly we could do a lot to improve our system. I think the more important part, a good first step is brutal transparency. Anyone that gives you money, it ought to be front and center for everyone to see. So if all of a sudden you got $1 million from Raytheon and all of a sudden you're a big pro, let's bomb Russia. Right? You got $500,000 from, Pfizer and all of a sudden you're a big pro vaccine guy. Right? And so then you hope that the American people become informed enough to say, yeah, to hell with this. These are people that are bought and paid for. To me, that's a good first step. But there are significant questions on the limits of lobbying and what should we do. I mean, the problem is also that people are going to cheat, right?
Yeah, right. And
J.B.
Pritzker,
a billionaire, he just announced that he made $1.7 million gambling this year. Did he?
Well,
what a convenient way if someone wanted to funnel money to you.
Yeah,
you'd
exactly.
be able to say, or maybe you're a painter now and people just spent $500,000 on your art. Right, Hunter Biden? And what do you do about that? You're just like, So it's sort of like the same argument with gun control. When you pass these laws, the only people that follow them are the law-abiding. The criminals will find ways to get around them. Same to be true of lobbying. If you say you can't give this money anymore, okay, the lobbyist that maybe was good-natured, hey, I own a small, sports goods store. I want to donate. You're going to be like, okay, I'm out of the game then. I don't want to piss with this. But the real nefarious people are going to be like, we'll find a way to buy off that senator. Trust me. So.
Yeah, I suppose there's also smoke and mirrors too, where you have other entities that are making the donations for you in a separate name, like the We Heart Puppies Coalition or whatever, accepting donations.
Correct.
From the Slaughterhouse Coalition.
But hey, I got to let you go. I got to try to get everyone in here.
Sure.
Pleasure,
Thank
though.
you.
Hopefully we'll talk soon, man. Yep. Keep getting those super chats in. Remember, day shift, you have to send another $50 in because night shift threw in the last $50. So day shift's going to lose it if we don't get another $50. I'm trying real hard to grift for more money here. Our good friend Grid, what's happening today, Grid? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, running late as always because I spent too much time talking to interesting people early, but that's how she goes, I guess.
I had a conversation with Connor earlier on his channel. He was going over the Sarah thing. And,
today?
Yeah, just a couple hours ago.
They're really getting their mileage out of it, huh?
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Did he say did he say as a conservative he hopes that you fear for your life to go in public? Did he say that, or is that just his buddy Destiny that believes that?
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't say that to me, but he may not care much for my safety. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, had a conversation over there. It was interesting. He's he's him. But at any rate, I was actually just going to kind of talk about that a little bit, and it was a very interesting listen because a lot of obviously his viewers are very slanted in a specific way, and it was interesting because Doobie was in there saying that he absolutely understands why Andrew did what he did, and everybody on Connor's chat was wrong. And I think Doobie and I have only agreed on like 4 or 5 things, and we both agree on that. So that was interesting.
Well, I mean, Connor has a slight part in the story because that's sort of when things started to go downhill for me and Sarah. If Connor would like, he could come on my show and we'll watch the portion of the debate I had with him where he constantly interrupts and boldly announces he's going to interrupt because I'm just wrong. And then he threatens to fight me and this and that shit. If he would like to make an ass of himself and come on, we could go through it and he could explain how it's totally justified to continue to interrupt me and allow Sarah to allow it to occur. That's fine. So, of course, he's going to have a slanted opinion that, yes, I should be allowed to interrupt constantly. And, someone saying that this is bad form. Yes, of course, he's going to take that side of it. And fuck him anyways, right? Because he knows that he's a piece of shit that's sold out, and he knows that I've called him out effectively on it, and so he's going to be like, oh, anything Rob does is wrong, so I don't give a fuck, though. Hey, maybe he had more people watching today than he normally does, because he's getting so many viewers thanks to his sellout. He did a great job.
Yeah, that's probably true. And but anyway, I heard earlier the fellow talking about getting people in live. And as you know, that's very near and dear to me because I'm actually doing that right now. And there's it's harder than you would think because I think a lot of the just look, and this is not an attack on any individuals, right? But I find that a lot of online debaters are a bunch of pussies. It can say a lot of shit online, but if face to face, it's just totally fucking different. They will not back up what they have to say. And I'm finding it exceptionally hard to find left-wing debaters to debate IRL. They absolutely are running from it. And the ones that will come on are so bad faith I won't have them on because I know all they're going to do is get up there and spurg and not have it's not going to be a good debate.
What percentage of left-wing debaters in this sphere that have any sort of public image probably think what happened to Charlie Kirk was his doing?
Oh, I don't even want to guess about that. That's probably it's probably a pretty high percentage.
Right. So what's the possible conversation? Right.
Yeah.
And so it becomes difficult. And it's sad that we become bifurcated like that. But what do you do in that situation? You sit yourself in a room with someone that's like, by the way, again, I go back to that George Abernay guy who runs the Oxford was the president of the Oxford Speech and Debate Club. He sat across from Charlie Kirk. He debated him at Oxford.
Yeah.
Presumably they shook hands. Presumably they talked before and after and exchanged pleasantries. How you doing? Hey, that was a lot of fun. Thanks. Good. Hey, good luck to you. And then as soon as Charlie Kirk gets shot, he's out there immediately like, yep, had it coming. So, how do you put yourself in a room with people like that? And so when you talk about people being bad faith, of course, there's many ways to interpret that, and that can mean many things, but I think people see my point.
No, yeah, absolutely. But even beyond that, let's just say that even though they feel that way, they can shuffle it down enough to appear normal. What I'm really getting from most lefties is the ones that will come or indicate that they would be willing to come are completely bad faith. And the problem is it's I have to think of what it's going to look like to the audience, right? Like it's not just, if they spurg and rage quit, then we just cut it to a live panel or something. This is live. Like if they spurg and rage quit and walk out of the building, then we got an hour and a half there to burn. Right. And, it's not the same.
Yeah. Great. I'm so sorry to do it. I have a hard out at 2:30.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, that's
obviously,
fine.
Call back in tomorrow. I'll be happy to talk to you. I know me and you have a debate coming up.
Yeah, we do. We need to talk about that at some point.
So we'll chat. But all right, Grid. Thanks so much, man.
See you, man.
All right. Unfortunately, Wrangler and Level 4 Lobster, I'm probably not going to get to. I probably only have time for one more caller. I am extremely sorry. I promise to both of you, if you call back in next time, tomorrow I'll be doing the call-in show at noon. I will bump you to the front of the line. I absolutely promise. I am so sorry, really from the bottom of my heart, but I'm poor at time management. So, AJ Noakes, what's up, man? I'm so sorry.
Having a very enlightening conversation in the back room.
I saw some of that. I saw a little.
It's fun. Hey, I wanted to just shout out to you, man. I mean, I this is my birthday Sunday. I got my new gun and shit. But I was
happy birthday, man!
Just to touch on the shit that happened with Sarah, or as I've heard her called, the aging potato. Is one of the captions I saw, which I was just kind of like, you know what, man? Like, I remember when Andrew broke away. I think it was about a year and a half ago. He broke away from all the regular people and stuff that he was doing, and he branched out on his own and went on whatever a lot and blah blah blah. And I was actually really happy to hear and see that you were branching away, going off the quote unquote normal show ups that I would see him on regularly a year and a half ago. So no, it's good. No, I wanted to just say congrats. Have a wonderful stream. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful day. I haven't talked to you in a few days, but
I appreciate it, man. I always appreciate hearing from you.
I never, ever hear a certain song in the day.
I know. Well, it's because I'm limited in time. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, I'm going to sing it like you. Remember you say you did that spoken word thing where you were just like, where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Donate now. Where there's a whip, there's a way. I'm a one-finger guy right now. I don't know how to play shit. This is actually my better house. There it is. I'll play shit music for as long as people are donating. I promise.
Oh man. Well, AJ.
No, send
if we could get you to play on guitar while Ulix does the Mongolian throat singing that he was doing the other night, I think we got a banger on our hands, right? Like,
right. We got to have an improv. We got to do that on the wheel. You got to do an improv one where you make the person who paid actually sing the song.
There you go. Yes, that works well.
There it is.
Well, AJ, thank you so much, man. We'll talk soon. I know it. Hopefully we'll talk tomorrow some other day, but it's always a pleasure, man.
Yep. All
right, we'll see you. Also, Wrangler, just so you know, it wouldn't even leave me. I was going to bring you up real quick, but it says they need to connect their mic or cam before I could add them to the stream. So just so you know, Wrangler, when you call back in next time, there's something going on with your mic or cam. It won't let me add you. Just so you know. Here, I'll show you what it's showing me. I could do this, right? You see how it's like got that like little triangle there? It's like a caution symbol. It won't let me add you. So something going on with your tech there. So, but we don't have time today anyways, but yeah, just mess around and figure it out. We'll bring you on next time. Promise that. All right. Are there any more super chats to be had? Or does Golly shame Day Shift at the very end with a $50 donation that no one could match, thereby preventing Day Shift from the victory? Now, of course, at 2:30, most days I have to go and pick up my son at school. So that's where I'll be heading. You guys have been incredibly generous. Thank each and every one of you. I'll be back at 5 p.m. on the Crucible's Rumble channel doing the extravaganza. Then at 8 p.m. tonight, I will be bringing on my guest, BX Bullet, to talk about the 764 Satanic Cult, which she links to a lot of shootings, including shootings at Christian schools that have occurred lately. So I think it'll be something that a lot of us haven't heard a lot about, so that could be very interesting. Tomorrow we'll be doing the call-in show again at noon. So if you didn't get your chance to call in today, feel free. We're going to be rating the intrepid Jim Bob. You can go over there and hassle him. That's always fun. But he's streaming, so be sure to tell him I sent you. Me and Jim Bob are going to be doing some sort of debate soon. It's probably going to be more of a joke debate. Like he talked about like the politics of Star Wars, other sort of meme debates like that. So, we shall see. Shout out to all of my mods. Thank you so much. Shout out to all of the people that donated, all of the people that called in. My editor, Black Elk, Spiro for helping out with tech issues, and everyone else that gave a like, sub, talked in the chat, or anything like that. Shout out to whoever this person is that's about to throw in $50. That'll be coming in the next minute here, which you'll see. Yes, I'm trying. So, I'll see you back on the Crucible's Rumble channel for the extravaganza there at 5 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much to all of you. As always, have a good one. And remember, keep the memory of Charlie Kirk alive and the memory of the lefties that celebrated his death. And never forget, these people would cheer for that action to you. God bless Charlie Kirk and God bless his family. We'll see you all soon. I know during this outro, someone's about to send $50 in. I know it. We'll see y'all later today. Thanks so much. God bless.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going. 1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.